Hello and welcome to the Overlap Rugby podcast. This is number 25. I'm Shane. That's Daragh.
Hello.
And I suppose we'll start with a slight apology for not having got out of it last week. We did promise.
I think that was 2 weeks.
It's almost 2 weeks, depending on how soon after we're recording this we get it uploaded. But
it might be. Hang on. No, it was a while ago.
It was a while ago.
It was after the last New Zealand South Africa match.
Yeah.
It was the aftermath of that, and then there was a 2-week break. And then, so it's been a while. We missed a few, we missed a couple.
We did, yeah.
We've been busy.
You have. But we've been watching all the same, and it has, darn it if it hasn't been interesting. And we're currently shooting this late in the evening on Thursday night in advance of first weekend of Champions Cup action.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have this uploaded for you tomorrow.
Oh, we will. Yeah, we'll get it up on Friday beforehand, so you can have a listen in advance.
Of the European weekend.
We're gonna chuck out there. We said we were going to mention it as well. We're gonna do a Q&A section, whereby if anyone comments anything on any of the videos or any of that, we will answer them at the start of the next podcast.
I guess the point of that was just like viewer engagement. There might be no one who's watching consistently, but like we're getting on the last podcast, I think we got a modest increase in views and a few likes on the video.
Yeah.
So we're just curious to see if there is anyone consistently watching, and if you do have any questions of us, ask them and we'll answer them.
We're happy to chat about them. Cause,
I mean, that'd be a cool thing. I'm sure anyone who's listening to us ramble on at this length must have some opinions and thoughts of their
Indeed,
own,
because it's all
questions to ask of us. So we'll be happy to answer them if you do have any.
Indeed. And this week, as promised, we didn't live up to the get it done the week after promise, but we will steer clear of Southern Hemisphere to begin with. Although we obviously will be touching in on the Rugby Championship, which concluded
we'll be reviewing
the
intro.
We'll do a breakdown from each of the teams' points of view. But we're going to start in Europe because that's probably slightly more prescient now. It's the current affair. So I guess what we're doing, we also missed a few weeks of that, but I suppose we'll probably try and frame it from the different perspectives of where certain key teams are in advance of this Champions Cup now and where they stand in their groups off the back of their more recent results, the ones that we missed in the interim, but also just the season thus far. And I suppose no better place to start than Leinster.
I was going to start with Ulster, but
we could do that.
I was going to literally just go in order of the fixtures, cover them all. That's what's going on in Europe this year. We could do pools.
No, that makes sense. We'll do the because you have the fixture list up there actually. Yeah. So we'll start with Ulster then.
This Ulster will be happening tomorrow evening. Ulster against Wasps, which on paper ahead of this tournament I think was a really interesting game.
It still is. I think it's just potential for a lot of tries, but more through some sloppiness on either side than top class execution. Although Ulster looks really good with their A team in force, which is what's happening tomorrow. It's purely just their second string that are worrying me sometimes. And when you take out some of those key players,
they had one trip where they put Darren Cave in the centre with Luke Marshall, and it was a trip to Zebra, and they lost. I think it was Zebra. Was it Zebra or Treviso?
It was Zebra.
They got caught cold by them. Zebra and Treviso, by the way, wonderfully improved.
That's
this
one
year.
of the more talking points over the last few weeks.
The little seeds that Conor O'Shea has planted are starting to grow.
And the Marty Banks that they managed to recruit.
Yeah, well, they got it. Getting in on the financial game, I suppose, was always going to help them. But for sure,
getting in on the catch pass play as well. That's what I've noticed with them. I'm rewatching some of the clips of some of the scores they've got. It's much more of a focus on that catch pass element to it. Like they're capitalising on tries in open space, which is good to see.
Yeah,
but we segue. We're
trying to piggyback on that Argentinian model.
Yeah, a little bit.
But this Ulster team, they got caught cold in Zebra. I'm not reading too much into that. I thought it was a really good gutsy win against Connacht last week. The game wasn't perfect. It wasn't a phenomenal standard, but there was some good play in there, and then a really world class winning try between Piatow and Jacob Stockdale, which was a really wonderful thing to see. And obviously Stockdale, good to see him in form. He had a really good game because the winger jerseys for Ireland heading into November are wide open, wide open. Obviously I think after last week Keith Earls will probably be a front runner, but good to see that guy in form. When they have McCluskey on the pitch, when they have again Cooney and Leilofana. Bo's not playing this week, but
Bo's not there this week.
Bo's not there this week, unfortunately. He's on the bench. But certainly looking ahead, they're playing London Wasps, who are 10th in the Premiership, have had a really slow start, have had no
They have no traction coming into this game at all. Yeah. Do they have a Curtly Beale?
No. Curtly Beale he's got another Bledisloe match to play. Oh, he was next week.
I forgot about that. Yeah, Bledisloe 3. And he's fairly an integral cog that Czech is not willing to send northward just yet.
No. Looking at this team, I'm actually, I haven't been watching Wasps. I know they've been sort of in meltdown, but looking at this team,
played dreadfully against Saracens last week.
Yeah, well, Saracens, they're obviously a tough team, but they have on paper a team that could certainly put it up to Ulster. Gopperth at 10, Mackin and Daly in the centre. Again, Wade on one wing and Billy LaRue at fullback. It's a flaky team, though. It's a team that can be caught.
It is a flaky team.
And I think this game is probably about Ulster, certainly from my perspective in terms of what I've been watching. Like this is a good test for Ulster where they're at. Are Ulster gonna do what I think they're gonna do and put out a warning shot to Europe with a 5-point?
They've been known to do it. They've been known to start well before Christmas.
I think this is not what I'm getting at. As I'm getting at, I think this might be a new iteration of Ulster.
Yeah.
This might be a new team with John O'Gibbs at the helm and a team that might be ready to compete in Europe. Not reading too much into that Zebra result. Obviously, you don't know. They could just become flaky, but they look really nice and tasty on paper. It's a lovely looking team.
Certainly, they started the season the quicker of any of the teams in the Pro 14. Yeah. They started with aplomb and were executing. It's like some of those tries in that Cheetahs game, the opening game, were actually like, despite the fact that it was the Cheetahs, which is becoming like. They're becoming more and more respected with each passing week, with each passing result. But Ulster's performance, some of the tries that were scored were excellent.
That was the first thing I thought about that game, was that the Cheetahs looked decent, and I thought Ulster looked excellent and really did a great job of putting them to bed. It
is their kind of game. I think Ulster will be one of the ones to struggle less with the South African challenge because they're more. We've always said that they're more shaped like a Southern Hemisphere team, like a top, like a Super Rugby team.
And certainly there are weaknesses in that pack. Outside of Ian Henderson, you really could do with Marcel Coetzee back. Sean Dysel is not a great player. Diak's not great. Reedy's not great. So
their front row isn't gonna. It's not the worst in Europe, but nor is it the best.
Their scrum is not good enough, to be honest. And this is where the problem is. Their backline is stellar. They can find tries.
But
they
seem to have for possession sometimes as well.
They don't kick it away, which is good. And they're relatively good at defending their own ball. But their issues come at set piece primarily. And just again, they can get stalled against a really wide defence because there isn't that much coming in the inside. That's where McCluskey has been such value. He can work as a flanker if it's going wrong. But what I will say is that they're not going to get that test that might struggle them. The test that Saris will give them.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. In this game with Wasps, I think it's fairly close to parity, and it'll be whoever's up for it more. And I do kind of suspect that will be Ulster in Ravenhill.
I think Ulster and Ravenhill are gonna do a really good job, and the fans be up for it. They're gonna work some of those systems into it. Their attack has been great. Like they've got like Cooney as a distributor now, working really well.
Cooney's an excellent player. Always was, even when he was with Leinster. He's very quick,
taking their kicks for them. But they've got Leo Lafano, who's really great. But Leo Lafano not afraid of the contact this year, so he's getting into contact quite a bit. And they've actually got Cooney, instead of just insta passing, he is coming out and doing that Will Genia role from time to time and being a distributor, which really helps them, because in the absence of a proper traditional sort of out half, well, it's not really traditional, but the modern mould of out half / centre, they do need a second distributor, and Cooney's kind of taken up that role. But McCluskey is very Jan Serpentine. He's very malleable. He can hang out on those wings, and
they can work Scott Stockdale into it as well, and Pieta is obviously comfortable doing it as well. They have weapons. No, he doesn't. They don't utilise him in that role, but he's normally looks comfortable whenever he gets the ball. He has a lot of time. But they're super dangerous. They look more pointed in their attack than even Leinster or Munster, certainly from an Irish perspective, but then most teams in Europe, they're
what they have is a great eye for a chance. Like their multi-phase can look flaccid at times, but then they catch a little moment on the blind side. It
doesn't tend to go to multi-phase as often with them. Not multi-phase like the way not multi-phase like the way we were seeing last week with the Leinster Munster game, where it was like 24 phases or something before the break. Like mental class ball retention. Good credit where it's due, but it's like too much time to score a try. You're not converting.
but they can strike, and that's a huge advantage to a team. Like, it gives you such leeway. We talk about the frailties in their pack, but it gives you such leeway. Wasps have this as well, but
that's
just haven't been having it.
Saying, like, literally all of this analysis you're making of Ulster can be said of Wasps too, other than they haven't had the results to back it up.
Yeah, and I also actually think player for player in terms of the strike plays, obviously Villy LaRue, Christian Wade, it's sort of very hot and cold, but I actually think Ulster's backline has a much better balance to it, and is much better form wise. So I think it could be a game where you do see static play, strike play from one side, try, strike play from another side, try.
Yeah.
But Ulster are in much better form, have a much better eye for a gap, of better 10, better 9,
and they're at home,
better centres, and they're at home. And I think they're going to be the team that finds the tries. They're going to get up. They're going to achieve parity at set piece, I imagine. They're going to achieve parity at the breakdown. Not a lot of threat there coming from Wasps, and then they're probably going to find tries. They're really great at looking at the space. They're really great at scoring from deep. It bails them out of some of their weaknesses, and I expect them to do that and go far. But again, we'll see what happens. Wasps are an interesting side.
Wasps are an interesting side. They make for pretty games, although they just got destroyed last week by Saris, which tells me they're off the level. So then the next game,
Saris can be on a different level.
Saris can be on it. That's partly what I was saying. Addendum to that, especially now it's coming into Europe. It looks like again that they're timing their season pretty well. In terms of how floundering they were a little at start, but still getting
they're on the next level. Saris, they're on the next level of professionalism in terms of club rugby. They're like the Crusaders this year. They just are in flow, and they're just very aware of when they need to score, when they need to win, what they need to do, and it's
you can't but admire it, to be honest.
It's all everything that Saris do is set up from a template, as opposed to what Ulster would do. There's not a lot of templates in it. They strike. They have instincts, and they strike. They do have players who are in sync with each other. McCluskey and Bowe being a great example of that this year. Those two players get each other and read off each other in an Aaron Smith, Wysaki and Holo type of way. They can make reads and make plays knowing what the other's going to do. But with Saris, they set up a template. They have 10.
And it's quite a deep template as well. They stand slightly deeper in terms of their line than
they have three or four of them. They have 3 or 4 of them with various forward pods in various ways, centres making short lines, but always there's the option to go mega wide. The defensive winger just cannot come short, cannot come in. The defence must be stretched the way Saris go. Their wingers do. They always have at least one winger hugging the touchline, and then they move the ball. There's 3 or 4 variations that they can do, and that's where they get their attacks from. And it's glorious. When
it's in full flow, it is very
difficult to stop.
It purrs. Saris' offense just tends to purr, which is a
as
neat
does
thing.
their defense as well. Their defense is
still
stellar,
led with Barrett in centre.
I think they're
grown as a player
into this to retain the championship. Are they front runners, would you say?
I haven't actually looked up no, I don't think you can make Montpellier front runners just off the back of early season form. I think it has to be Saris, really.
Could be Montpellier. I really like Montpellier.
I do as well. Cruden at 10,
Vern Connery coach,
and they did lose the other week, but that was with Stain at 10 and just a hodgepodge of a back line and a terrible performance. So it was like hard to read much into it. But yeah, no, I probably would make Saris front runners. Still, like I think you would have to. I don't think you'd make any Irish teams near front runners currently, even Ulster. But based on the early season form, it's not good. Speaking of Montpellier, we will segue, I suppose, into that game. It's Leinster Montpellier.
It's the second game
we're going to on Saturday in De Viva Stadium.
In the RDS, my friend.
Is it in the RDS?
Yeah.
Oh, not in De Viva, in the RDS class. Actually, it's probably better for it.
They always do one game in the Aviva at Christmas time, the other 2 home games in the RDS.
Is that?
That's always the formula. Exeter will be
doing Exeter in the Aviva. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I suppose French fans wouldn't travel at all as often.
Maybe some of them there, but
yeah, interesting. But yeah, okay. So in the RDS at 1:00, annoyingly in the afternoon, which is a bit tedious, but we're playing Montpellier, which is such a scary proposition, especially given the shellacking we gave them last year, which they will remember. But they look a different. They're playing a different sport from any other team in the top tours currently. It's crazy the pace of any other team in terms of their multi-phase, whereas Montpellier are striking
like a machine. They've got again, they're one of these teams now that again have been more or less put together by money, but they have now a very well assembled balance. So they have like a really, really good maul. But then they can attack. They can be super narrow sometimes. They can be frustratingly narrow. But then they have wingers that can just strike and score from anywhere.
And from nothing.
And what they aren't doing,
like Nahola can literally create something from nothing at all.
Yeah, exactly. A one-on-one, like if
or a one-on-two,
yeah.
and he can make something out of it.
Yeah,
and it's like it's
and
very hard to defend.
They have a nice balance to their centres. In Francois Stein, a distributor, and then Dumoulin, very traditional French centre, very solid.
I like
player.
the second distributor as well. Helps Cruden. I've always thought Cruden looks better with that instead of
Damien McKenzie distributing and taking the kicks for him. He was like a different player.
Exactly, yeah, just
what he was
much more free.
Yeah. Cruden's another guy who likes to flow, and certainly one of the avenues for success for Leinster in this game is to hassle him.
It has to be Josh van der Fleer, and it has to be. That was one thing he did very well against Munster, was harass the two would-be 10s that were on pitch instead of Scannell for ridiculous reasons.
Yes,
but that was one thing I noticed in the stadium, was he was flying up on Keatley every time, and it was good. It caused disruption.
Yeah,
and it needs to be the same.
But that's the thing. Like, if Cruden fades out of a game, they've got Francois Stein to come in. They're very good at varying their gameplay. One of the interesting things they were doing last week was just not kicking the ball. Jesse Mogg was at fullback, and from his Brumbies years,
you've had many an outraged outburst at Jesse Mogg's expense for the kicking of the ball. Him and White. Conspiring to kick every ball into the air.
Nick White, back in the Brumbies days, they're an awful team to watch. But Jesse Mogg, I watched that game. He didn't kick the ball at all. He got a lot of bombs, and he was receiving them, running back, looking dangerous on the counter attack. I do prefer Benjamin Fall as an option at fullback, but I love that Jesse Mogg is starting to play a bit of rugby.
Because he's an awkward lad when he's like running. He's got that long stride. He's tough to bring down.
And then in their back row, they have all the Frenchmen. They've got Bardi, they've got Daragh, they've got Camara, very athletic, very dogged at the breakdown, especially Daragh. And again, ideal at the breakdown, tough engine room, really solid score.
I still think we're susceptible to that.
And tries in the back line. Their defence could be got at. I mean, it's not perfect. It's certainly, there's no stellar defenders in that setup at all, and if Francois Stein is very liable to shoot up. So again, it's going to take a Sexton.
It's going to be on Henshaw or someone.
Well, it's going to be on Sexton to make the plays. Sexton very much alone in that Leinster back line as a distributor, because Carberry, for whatever reason, just isn't coming into the line.
He is occasionally.
Not as a distributor. He's very deep. He's attacking from deep. He looks flowy. He looks really good, Carberry, but he's not doing what he should be doing when you have two 10s on the field, which is being a second distributor. So Sexton is very much alone.
Well, mind you, the one instance in which that did happen was when the try came last week. Yes, when it was Sexton to Carberry
coming into the line, which is they need more of. But again, in that move, Carberry was for all intents and purposes being a second centre. Like, it was Sexton making the call, is my point. Like, Sexton is the one driving the play, making all of the decisions. So that a lot, as always with Johnny Sexton, a lot rests on his shoulders, and a lot of how this match is going to flow. It's also why we are looking.
Leinster, from a Leinster point of view, looking very static when Luke McGrath is on the pitch, as opposed to when Jameson Gibson Park comes in.
Gibson Park starts second distributor.
Exactly, he starts challenging the line. And also he's just quicker. He's just. Even when he makes the wrong decision, i.e. goes the wrong way, he's done so quickly. And our players are good at it. One of the good things about this Leinster team is that they all do have a good appreciation of ball placement after the contact, so that tends to not be a problem anymore. That used to be a problem. We used to be pretty sloppy in that department, bar a few excellent players like Heaslip. We used to be a bit too gung-ho to carry the ball for an extra yard at the expense of 5 seconds at breakdown time when we have to wrestle it back, whereas this time we do tend to place it pretty quickly, and when we sometimes fail to resource key rucks and get poached,
which again could seriously happen. So the thing about Montpellier is that if they start controlling the game, they can switch between so many different areas and so many different strengths and so many different game styles, and they've got players who are comfortable doing it all. I mean, Francois Stein and Aaron Cruden, they love to run the ball, but they can absolutely play a territory game. Both of those guys, they're really good at picking out corners. And again, young Leinster wingers, naive Leinster wingers. No James Lowe, still mitre 10 cupping. So a lot of avenues for success for Montpellier in what you're doing. But Leinster, again, despite having us as fans, season ticket holders, watching them every week this year, very unimpressive so far. But it is all within the context of these are semi-finalists of the Champions Cup. These are guys who are legitimately good
they're challengers going into the tournament, which is what we want to be. But looking at the group that we have, it's the toughest group.
We've got Montpellier. This is what I said when the draw was made. Everyone was talking about the other groups. Some people were daft enough to talk about the Munsters group as a tough group.
Munsters group is a mercifully cushy group.
Yeah.
Considering they are in, we will get to them soon, but I have serious concerns for over Munster's chances. I think they're playing some poor rugby this season, and I think they have some poor operators in their back line.
Really, I suspect that they will.
Scannell looks excellent, but Chris Farrell does it.
Chris Farrell had a poor game against Leinster. Has some questionable defensive instincts. In offense, he's better than Jaco Tout.
He's better than Jaco Tout, but
Jaco Tout's a solid defender. It sort of depends on what you want to do. You really have to play Scannell, but we'll get to Munster.
Yes, I know.
But for Leinster's group, it is cert difficult because there's Glasgow in there as well, who are the only unbeaten team left in Europe.
Indeed.
And really, really wonderful to watch, and everything that we expected.
Exeter as well, who are second in the Viva Premiership.
That's going to be a great game, but we'll get to it.
I'm just illustrating how difficult of a task this is, and also I don't like. Well, it's you can't complain about it, but starting at home adds pressure because if they lose, they're lost.
I actually disagree with that. I'm relieved that Leinster are starting at home against Montpellier because I think if they had to go to Montpellier, they'd lose 5-0. At least when they're going at home to Montpellier, they have a good chance of winning. The RDS Leinster don't lose often. Although I am saying that like a lot in recent years is starting to happen more. Is that the human factors are becoming less of a factor. I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, but rugby, the basic skill sets in rugby are vastly improving. And I was sort of watching the game tonight between Gloucester and Pau of France in the Challenge Cup, and it was horrendous. There were loads and loads of mistakes, but what caught me was like there used to be so many more of those games. Every week you used to be able to see teams just knocking on balls, and that's how plays ended. And like it's almost unheard of these days. You're just not seeing it that much in the Pro 14. There's just not that many errors. Like the human factors like home advantage are having less and less of an impact. We saw it last year with Scarlets. Scarlets just showed up to play rugby and they won both the semi-final and the final, and the crowd and the pitch, and it didn't really matter. It matters when you're going to altitude. It matters when you're going to some exceptional place, an occasion, you're travelling long distance, something like that. But usually it doesn't matter that much, and I suspect with Montpellier it might not. But certainly it's an advantage of some description for Leinster.
It is.
For me, what Leinster need to do, dominate the scrums. I know Montpellier have a good scrum, but Leinster can surprise people. I would pick Cian Healy to start.
I would. I don't know if they will.
Cian Healy is
the best.
He's the best loose-headed scrummager I think I've ever seen in my life. Like I watch him every
what he
week.
does to scrum. He just comes off the bench and just demolishes.
There was a period in time.
What his normal practice is to cause one scrum to reset and then demolish it.
Yeah.
It's like
he has a track record now of the best tight heads the world is known or is knowing in the world of just making them look like fools. And yeah, he's as good a scrummager as there is, and I would pick him because I think Leinster are going to need that. Line out looks sort of short up. I think you would have to start James Tracy on form for doing that for Leinster.
And it's also, I don't mind the impact of Cronin off bench.
Yeah, exactly.
Cronin off bench
Cronin and Jack McGrath in my lineup coming off the bench, which is good. But Leinster need that set piece to go well. They need a back row that is sharp. I would pick again 2 back rows. I would pick Levy and Josh in the back row, 2 open sides. They need the ball. They need quick ball. Gibson Park we hope starts. We know Luke McGrath will. So
Conan will at 8.
It'll probably be Ruddock or some other empty jersey at 6. Leinster are just stalwarts for having nonsense.
One thing I will say is I've been impressed with Scott Fardy.
That second row.
I
don't think he does enough.
I think he's doing good hassling at the line out, and I think he's making a good physical impact on the pitch. He is still guilty of at least 1 penalty a game, which is a problem that you foresaw.
I just don't know that he uses, like, he does hassle people and you notice him. I just don't know that he's affecting the right areas. Like, it's sort of dead rucks and dead moments. Like, I just want what Brad Thorne gave us, which was just brutal efficiency. like Brad Thorne, obviously super fit guy, but he was ancient when he came to us, and he was just using his weight in the right ways, clearing out rucks at the right time, supporting people when they were isolated.
Also the terms of the wisdom, getting people like Heaslip focused on the right things.
Well, I can forgive Fardy for not being Brad Thorne in that sense, but I just think around the pitch, his efficiency of energy is not good, and this is where I worry about Leinster, is just resourcing rucks. So I suspect, you know Leinster are one of the big European teams. They can click. Sexton on his day can blow anyone away, has blown the All Blacks away. It happens. Robbie Henshaw, superstar. Leinster haven't seen any real patterns from Leinster this year. The only decent tries they've scored this year have come off the old school wraparound, which will not fool Montpellier.
No.
So I don't know what to expect from their attack.
I know that there's personnel. I expect another big role for Tyke Furlong in the loose. We were leaning on him quite heavily in that Munster game.
If Leinster go that way, the Tyke Furlong route, we could dub it, they're going to lose the game. What they need are strike plays. What they need are more tries. I haven't seen any evidence that they can score tries. The only evidence that's there is that Lancaster is a smart guy, is that they have smart coaches and players who can do it.
And a team ethos that wants to do it as well. And a tradition of running rugby.
So you don't know what they've been working on. You don't know if they can find something. But on the evidence of what we have to say, I'm leaning towards Montpellier for that one. I'm leaning towards calling it for Montpellier.
Yeah, it's certainly a seriously tough test. It's a worrying fixture for us, we Leinster fans.
Bismarck Duplessis, who I didn't mention as well, coming back and scoring 2 tries.
Who is a much better operator than Tracy in the loose.
Oh, of course, much better operator than just about everybody in the loose.
I'm unconvinced by our boy James Tracy in the loose. In terms of just it's criticism being brought about because we're just looking at so many world class number 2s, and we came off the back of, we'll mention later on, but that Champions Cup, that display from our boy in the South African jersey, number 2,
Malcolm Marks. We will get to that.
We will get to it, but like, just we're seeing play of that caliber in that 2 jersey, and have been for some years as well. Even the South African number 2s have all been doing that. Dane Coles has been raising the bar as well. It's just I'm unsure about where he fits in that metric, but I think we're being challenged. I think on paper we're the lesser team.
I agree. There's a lot of emptiness in Leinster at 13 and on the wings, most specifically.
13 has been a worry all thing. That was one cause for optimism though. Henshaw being back and getting that game last week. It made our defence look a lot better. It still wasn't perfect and it was still flawed, but it looked a lot better with him there, a lot more physical with him and Sexton leading it.
The problem
still
is
too narrow.
They just decided in August that they were going to go with Issa and Rory O'Loughlin. They just decided it and played them every week and didn't have any panic. And then Rory O'Loughlin has been wildly out of form, even though he got 2 tries the weekend.
I don't know if he's not been out of form. He's been out of position. I actually think he's doing a creditable job considering, but I just don't see him as a 13.
He started as a centre.
I don't see him as a 13 at all.
Well, he's dropping balls. I mean, it doesn't matter whether you're a centre or not. You don't drop balls.
It's true.
He's dropping balls. He's making silly plays.
He's missing tackles.
He's missing tackles. He's looking out of sorts. And then Issa got injured. And now I really, you're talking about Leinster's avenue for success being finding some sort of pattern that they've been working on, but they would have executed some of that on the pitch, and they've executed none of that on the pitch. Their strike rate for scoring tries, like their possession versus tries, has been weak sauce.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, even that very good try that we mentioned earlier with Sexton to Carberry to Rory O'Loughlin for the second try. Even that try was after, must have been at least 23 phases, but it involved 2 crossfield kicks to the same side that we ended up retaining, and
I
it
tell
just
you
looked
what,
static for most
crossfield
of it.
kicks to Adam Byrne, all well and good when he's lining up against Keith Earls. Nadolo will do what the Pow man did today and run the distance of the pitch off a crossfield kick. Good
Especially
luck. And so will Nagusa on the other wing. Good luck crossfield kicking. Those 2 big Fijian wingers are your crossfield kick tactic nullified. I don't want to see any crossfield kicks tomorrow from Leinster, and if you do, it is evidence of Sexton's ego running riot and Leinster having no ideas. And again, another avenue for defeat. Or
Sexton getting injured and Ross Byrne coming off the bench and kicking the ball incessantly.
Again, Sexton gets injured, Carberry comes to 10. You do something.
Why is Ross Byrne on the bench?
You do something else with the
in the same way that we questioned in the last podcast the wisdom of having Delindy on the South African bench. I just don't see the wisdom in having Ross Byrne there, and in fact I think it's a downright mistake. I think he's dreadful for Leinster. I think I do think he's a good 10 for a different team, but like Leinster, you can't do it for Leinster. He's the wrong mould. He stands deep and kicks, and he doesn't challenge the line, which is what Leinster always do.
That's the wrong mould for the modern game too. That's changing.
Probably is, yeah.
Anyway, then the following game that's going to happen on Saturday afternoon after that one is Racing against Leicester. Again, two really flaky teams. Leicester are on a run of 4 wins. It's going to be
Racing.
Leicester are on a run of 4 wins, but wins. I haven't been watching.
Is Carter still injured? Because Carter was injured at the start.
There are no lineups yet. I'm not sure. To be honest, I haven't been watching either of these teams. I watched Racing lose a game against Lyon, who are the La Rochelle of this year, won away in Paris. Both sides really flaky. Neither side a legitimate contender.
I don't think so. Not in my mind either.
Again, this game could go either way. I suspect that Racing will win at home, but Leicester, you don't know with Matt O'Connor. They seem to be going with the same mould that Matt O'Connor always goes with, but getting some wins. They have some serious personnel.
That's it. And they do have an ethos that it's a similar story to Leinster from a few years ago with Matt O'Connor, and like they have like yesteryear to still lean on, and they have a Welford Road pride and a tradition. Like they can draw from that well for some
serious players, and at least Matt O'Connor's sort of moulding fits their ethos a little better.
It does fit it better than over.
And he was there for years, so they seem comfortable enough for them. They're on a run of 4 from 4. An away win for Leicester wouldn't be out of the question.
No, and it would be an impressive start. It would be a very good start for them.
Yeah. In terms of patterns, I suspect this to play out like a top Couture's game. I expect it to be slow. Like if you want to watch a game this week as a neutral, I would not pick Racing against Leicester. But it was one of those games that's probably going to be 4-1 in terms of points.
Yeah. Tight.
A win versus a losing
arm wrestle.
Yeah, maybe one try each, and the team with more clutch will win it, which could just as well be Leicester as it could be Racing. And a huge game for both teams, especially for Leicester. If they get a win, they might be thinking about playoffs and quarterfinals, which is not something that this team at the start of the season I would have suspected. So big day for them. They could pull it off.
Yeah. In short, I don't really want to know. I don't know enough phone, dear. A flickering light.
I just go out. Okay.
We could be extinguished soon enough. We'll try and we'll clip on but the next game, which is happening also on Saturday, I believe, is Harlequins and La Rochelle, which is actually a pretty good game, I think.
Yeah,
that's actually a pretty serious game. Harlequins at home will be hoping to get off to a good start. La Rochelle are a scary prospect though. Harlequins are wallowing in the mid-table and in Premiership.
3 are they?
Yeah, and just like probably a bit doubtful, and like I don't know about that one. That one could be an away win for
La Rochelle. Have started quite well, but I suspect that they'll take Europe off.
Do you reckon?
Yeah.
Interesting theory.
I suspect
could happen.
I suspect they'll take Europe off, and I think Harlequins will win.
Known to
I think it'll be one of those perplexing games where they just lose. Even if they pick a strong team, they just lose away. They just aren't in the mood and lose. So I think Harlequins will win that again.
It's an interesting call.
They're not the most interesting games. The most interesting games are the big guns, which we haven't got to yet.
Bath Treviso,
the next game kicks off at the same time.
It's gonna be Bath.
Of course it is. Bath are in good form.
I'm gonna put out a hypothetical fantasy scenario.
No.
And just have Marty Banks in cruise control all day with McKinley at 15 pulling
Treviso
strings.
are a creditable team this year. They have done a really good job.
They are.
This time 6 months ago I was lamenting.
You can look back on the I think it was like overlapping podcast. It was maybe number 19 or 20 when we were railing against.
I was declaring it dead. I wanted Georgia in. I still want Georgia in, or at least with an avenue to get in or something. World Rugby, but Italy. Like the seeds that just looked like they were dying. The seeds that Conor O'Shea was planting seem to have sprouted this season, and that's the thing. You never know what happens in an off season and what's going to come to the fore. They've brought in some foreign people, both Zebra and Treviso, and now they've got a bit of flow to them. Treviso certainly do with Ian McKinley and Marty Banks, and then the other lad at 15, Jason Hayward.
Yes.
Yeah. So they've got actually a lot of
players, and they're moving the ball much better as well. They're also seizing opportunities in open play. Off the chaos, they're much better than they looked.
They're not doing what Gloucester were doing tonight, which is dropping the ball. The Pro 14 has taken a step up this year. It has been good. It looks global. It looks almost very similar, a lot of the games, to Super Rugby.
It does.
There's not a lot of drop balls going on, where in the Premiership...
Unless you're watching a Southern Kings game.
In which
case there is a lot of...
But there's not as many. And again, if Bath do make those mistakes, you could see a chance. But to be
Bath
honest,
at home,
Bath
and kind of who are we kidding here?
Bath are in the mood. Bath have Anthony Watson and George Ford and England internationals who are going to punish them.
They are so dangerous.
Punish missed tackles that Treviso will do.
I also think just in the pack, I think that's where the game will be lost. I think Bath will
and Bath do also have a backline to
capitalise. I know. It could actually be a tough day at the office in the rec for Marty Banks's men, as I have affectionately come to think of Treviso. Benetton now, even though it is listed as Treviso there, but I think they're Benetton Rugby now, which is good. I kind of like consigning Treviso to the history books and having the Benetton experiment with Marty Banks at 10 being
a whole new thing,
and it's class, and it's been good so far. But so the next game as well on Saturday. It is on Saturday as well.
Saturday evening, Exeter
Glasgow. There's a game.
If you want to watch one game this week, you got to watch Exeter Glasgow. I'm going to call it right here and say Glasgow win. Glasgow are in the mood. Glasgow are bee-boo. Sorry, computer just going away. Glasgow are, for me,
the form team in Europe. They look so scary.
They look like the Chiefs. I mean, they look like Dave Rennie.
Dave Rennie's just molded.
Kieran Keane is really floundering in Connacht, and Dave Rennie's Glasgow have already just clicked into gear. And it's like, I guess we're seeing who the real brains behind the operation was. They haven't got Stuart Hogg back yet.
No.
But they have a Tommy Seymour and a Finn Russell in flow.
And they're playing who at 15 they're playing Rory Jackson.
Yes. Again, so he does like his distributors at 15. He does like to move very wide, but then they also strike. The pick and jamming last week against the Cheetahs.
Callum Gibbons is looking very good in that Kieran Reid kind of role in the wide channels as well. He set up a try last week from that.
Like they're pick and jamming though. They have them like Pat Lam with Connacht. He's reinvigorating their thinking. It's not that Sarri's thing of having a template and we're all hitting the template, and then within that template we're making our options and attacking it that way, which is a very legitimate thing. And Saracens against Glasgow might go a different way. Saracens are probably the form team in Europe, or the best team in Europe. Maybe not the form team, but the best team. Glasgow though, it's all about heads up, and that's why they could find tries against the Cheetahs, when the Cheetahs again starting to learn about defensiveness, starting to move out, but then it was pick and jams from Glasgow,
just heads up play, reactive play,
and every one of them playing ball, every one of them in sync with one another, every one of them looking for offloads, no drop balls, constantly on the attack, and that's the beauty of it. And
they're also resourcing rucks very technically well. All of their players 1 to 15. That's one thing I've noticed with them this year. 1 to 15, the way they seal off a ruck is very technically good, which is good to see because there's a lot of floundering that has still happened.
One of the sort of worrying things, but also good things that it's being figured out, is that like the most efficient way for a coach to improve a team is a coach coming in is to work on basic skills, which is a kind of a weird thing. You think they're all professionals. This is your bottom. Cement. This is the cement on which you build a team. But that's what Pat Lam did with Connacht. Like, he got like second rows who had looked so pitiful before, Ali Muldowney's and people like that, just playing Brodie Retallick role, and he just did it with drills. Like, he just changed the way they were thinking about the game, and everybody could play ball then, and everybody, like, it was amazing what the practice did for their handling. And it was almost like you're not practicing before, but a lot of teams aren't. And Dave Rennie again working on the very technical aspects of individuals, learning how to play, learning how to spot plays, and this is what he did with the Chiefs, and this is why we loved the Chiefs last year as opposed to the Crusaders. Is it was just giving them the tools to make their own decisions and giving them the tools to play the game and to see the game, and then allowing them to do that.
It's great. I love that style of play, and that's what we need more of from Leinster as well. It's like, I think that's in our mould of thinking as well. I think it's in the instinct, in just the DNA of the club. There needs to be a bit of that, and there's room for all kinds. There's room for the Sarries in this world as well. But Glasgow have
Exeter again similar.
That's what I'm thinking as well. Like Exeter, like they're similar.
They are a bit more gritty this year.
They have more grit about them. They're throwing fewer intercepts, which is good.
Yeah.
But no, they look super dangerous, and they're just a dangerous prospect for literally any team, including an unbeaten Glasgow, because an unbeaten Glasgow is kind of uncharted waters for Glasgow.
Yeah. It's a heavyweight clash, but a heavyweight clash between two teams who play ball.
Yeah.
It's a heavyweight clash between two teams who are now heavyweights, who also are progressive in their views. They're not like an established clubs. They're clubs that have worked their way up in the last few years to the point of heavyweights, and now they're both playing in a year where they both think this is the year we take Europe by storm. Exeter are Premiership champions. Glasgow are unbeaten. They got to the quarters last year.
Glasgow have a history of disappointing themselves in Europe.
They didn't last year. They got to the quarters and got beat. But this year, both of these sides are thinking this is the year we take Europe. This is a huge game. If it finishes 4-1 to Exeter, it's still game on. But either side could take this pool by the scruff of the neck. This is the game of the weekend, other than maybe Leinster Montpellier.
Which is just to say,
two games from the two groups, from the one group even.
Indeed, the group of death is what it is, and it's a scary prospect.
So literally every game in those groups is going to be the two games of the weekend, because all four teams are in stellar form. I think it's a really tough one to call. My instincts lean towards Glasgow, but I'm biased. I'm watching more Pro 14.
It could easily be Exeter. I think my instinct actually leans a little towards Exeter, but I think Glasgow are the better team on paper.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking. And
Exeter have never been big guns for on paper though.
No, they haven't.
They're a team, and they like Glasgow, like Connacht. They play heads up rugby and they catch teams off guard because of it, and they are in sync and they are in flow, and they're difficult to knock off flow. Like as we saw last year with the clutch at the business end of the season, they will find scores even in the face of adversity. They'll find that winning score, as they did against Sarries. So Glasgow are going to need to stay awake for the whole game, but Glasgow did last week as well. They were behind, they were losing at altitude, found the winning score with an awesome crossfield kick. Finn Russell is a all-out ball player. You wonder if he's going to be hassled by tigerish defence and good flankers. That could be an avenue for success for Exeter, but right now he looks in flow. The only
as we suspected, I do think Dave Rennie's just an agreeable kind of coach for Finn. I think he was necessary at this time in Finn's career as well.
Giving him a second distributor is absolutely necessary.
Similar enough to Cruton, actually. I would say the same thing. I think Finn doesn't cope with the Sexton role of like all the responsibility, whereas there are some Sexton type personalities who kind of nearly want it. They invite all the responsibility on themselves because of those kinds of players, to the
detriment of all around them
sometimes. Whereas sometimes as well it does give you those performances like the Heineken Fine where they just drag a game by the scruff of the neck back into a business. It's one of those where there's trade-offs and benefits either side, but you need to know your players. And like Dave Rennie is one who the trust that he would place in Finn Russell to make those kinds of decisions, heads up play, instinctive play, linking with his full back, that's all good. So like, especially given the relationship he's built up with Stewie Hogg over the years, and him yet to come back into that side is such a scary prospect.
It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of shape the game takes, because obviously both sides love to attack. So your instinct would be to say try.
I don't know.
But it could be tight.
It could be one of those like after 60 minutes it's maybe a try each or a try and a few penalties.
Both sides are actually starting to think not just about that. It's about having that in your arsenal, but also they're starting to think about defence. They're trying to make that step from being the best attack in Europe to being the best team in Europe, and both of those sides have an ability to stake that claim. And this game could be won by defences. Serious attack. Who's going to make the defensive plays? And it's going to be an absolute thrill to watch.
One thing I would say about Glasgow is I think their passing stats probably back it up, but their passing accuracy is probably the best I've seen in Europe this year. Bar maybe on Montpellier on form, but they've been next level with that from 1 to 15 as well. Like their second row's getting involved. They're using their flankers in the wide channels very well. They're getting everyone involved where they should be, and everyone's picking the right ball. So it's been great. It's been great to watch.
I don't think Exeter are the team to beat them. There is a team to beat them. I think it's probably like you'd think Saracens on paper. I don't think Exeter are the team to beat them. I think Glasgow are just a little bit better, similar but a little bit better, and I think that they'll win it. But it obviously a lot of it depends on the day.
It does, yeah. And Glasgow, I'd be very disappointed if the teams like Glasgow and Clonethley let down the Pro 14 yet again in Europe.
I think the Pro 14 is starting to look a lot sharper.
It is, and I'm also thinking it may be more likely to be the Irish teams to let it down this year.
Yeah.
Looking at us, but yeah, no, I think that is the game of the weekend, and there's a lot to be said for it. And there's certainly go and watch it. I know we will.
The following game on Sunday is between Cast and Munster, and Munster are going to win that.
In Cast?
Yeah. No arguments. I think we can move on. I don't know. We don't know the teams yet, which is frustrating. But Munster should pick Scannell at 12. Lessons should be learned from last week. Last week they were very silly. They were very naive. Put Keatley and Hanrahan on as the 2 10s. Hanrahan never really came in at 10. It was ridiculous. Keatley had Blindall was there as well. Blindall was out of position. He's not a 12 actually. He's not a 12 at all. He's not good at it. He's not good at defending from it.
But also they hadn't played that way before, apart from maybe in training. So
Ian Keatley had one good game, and they decided he was the next great Munster 10, as they have many times.
He got harassed by Josh all day long. Josh Van der Fleer all day long, and just shipped it on, stood deep and shipped it on.
Yeah, he was very.
And then Blendall is another, similar to we had issues with this Leinster. I'm saying again, we had issues with this earlier in the season, particularly the Cheetahs game. But no Reid at 12, where it's a similar kind of thing where. Yes, he's a good passer, and I like having not necessarily an out-and-out distributor, but someone who can pass at 12 is a better option than a Jamie Roberts, say.
Yes.
Even though you want that, but you also, there is some merit to the Jamie Roberts mould in that you want your 12 to be physical enough to be able to challenge the line. Yeah. Particularly if you have a slight enough 10 like a Keatley or something like that, you need to have someone in that jersey who's, even if they're like Curtly Beale. Curtly Beale's not the biggest guy in the world, but he's physical as a player, and he can use his footwork to take on the line. Whereas Noel Reid or Blendall, when you take a small enough 10, but he's slightly more physical, I would say.
Problem for me
it's just you can't win the collisions, and it means that then you're almost always passing, and that means you're predictable.
Yes,
and it means that even then, when you do take it up to the line, you're soft on the contact, and it's not good.
With Scannell there, whether it's Marshall outside him or Tauta, there's always danger. And Blindall again much more comfortable at one of these 10s. He's much more comfortable with a distributor when he's playing a 10. Scannell is that guy. Scannell plays for Munster. There are avenues for tries, but even without it, their pack is going to be good enough. O'Mahony and Stander are going to be annoyed at themselves for last week, giving away penalties, being sloppy. They're going to come into form against what is a sloppy iteration of Cast. Proud but sloppy, and not as good at clutch performance. Clutch performances are what make Cast. They're what's made the name of Cast. They're the foundation on which the modern iteration of them has been built. But they don't have the same kind of clutch as Munster. And Munster are going to outdo them at the breakdown. I suspect they might pick them off at the line out.
And Peter O'Mahony in the line out at 2.
Yeah, I'd say they'll
jumping at 2.
Pick them off at the line out, find tries, win it. Maybe not with an attacking bonus point, but they probably won't give away a losing bonus point. They're a better team than Cast. I suspect they'll get out of that group with Leicester as well.
Probably will.
Leicester and Racing. So we'll see.
It's less of a challenge than our group, we're going to say.
But Munster, you're much more negative about Munster than I am.
I am.
Munster were good in previous weeks. They didn't have a good game.
They weren't good.
They had a bad game. But with Scannell at 12, their attack lights up. With Tauta at 13, their defence improves. And certainly I suspect that'll be the pairing this week. And then there's danger.
They're not as impactful as years gone by in the tight 5.
Becoming a weapon. Keith Earls is in serious form.
He is in very serious form.
Lightning. He can find tries from anywhere. So again, lots of avenues for tries I see for Munster. Scrums. By the scrums, we forgot to mention John Ryan, Dave Kilcoyne.
John Ryan's doing
These guys are out scrummaging their Leinster counterparts now. Their Lions counterparts. John Ryan and Dave Kilcoyne, the Munster scrum coach, has them on fire. So better scrum, better line out, good attacking maul, solid defensively. Got Scannell at second distributor, can attack that way. Got Keith Earls, got that lightning effective score from anywhere, which he can do. Loads of avenues for success. A better side than Cast. Going to win that match.
I'll leave it there. I'll leave it with that. I hope you're right.
I believe I'm right.
I hope you're right. go to France and do the job. And then we have Toulon Scarlets. Come on, Scarlets.
Yeah, Scarlets the good guys in that one for
They
sure.
seriously are. If you've never watched this podcast before, Toulon are always the bad guys.
Yeah.
In any fixture.
To be fair, it's now become a case of
Toulon.
It's now become a case of Bouchelal started it. But to be fair, Bouchelal is oh, that's my phone not being on silent. So much background noise in this podcast.
We're such an unprofessional bunch of scallywags. But Bouchelal started it.
Bouchelal started it in terms of
he's also he came out with that other nonsense that during a few weeks ago. Maybe that was in the interim as well, where he was like throwing shade at his own player for
he was giving out to his own prop for
in the
bad
media,
through the media, exactly, and saying like he's not bitching away the jersey
to a media scrum, and you're like, what the hell is this?
He treats his players terribly. He's a terrible guy. Destroyed rugby. Now everyone's doing it, but he wanted the reason why Aussie rugby is on the brink, why Aaron Cruden isn't playing in New Zealand. Like, it all started.
South African domestic rugby is looking a little bit more disjointed and fragmented.
Yes,
all of this traces back
to
France and Toulon
originally.
Toulon are the blueprint for success with it. I think it was actually Racing.
No, Toulon were first. Toulon were first
was
for
it?
Sure. Before Racing, they were bought. They were the first iteration.
They got their
of
Johnny
this
Wilkinsons in. They got
nonsense. Yeah. Wasn't it
the first Toulon team that won their first Heineken Cup? Well, didn't they have in their squad a World Cup winner from 4 different countries?
I believe so.
Wasn't that one of the stats revealed?
Yes. Yeah. I think it was
nonsense. Silly nonsense. That is now being found out, because the other thing that they contribute is a very top Couturesian attitude where bigger is best.
Yes.
And they're slow.
This is what I'm seeing this year.
It's like
Manonu and
Bastero in the centres.
Like, this is a really hopeless looking side. The only thing that I will say is that Scarlets are a little out of form.
They are.
There's a huge task on the shoulders of your Tyg Burns and your John Barclays, and that whole back row is going to have to front up, because
physically Toulon are a daunting task.
We have
for anyone.
watched in recent months and recent times, when Toulon are in flow, the way that they flow is just brutal. It's like watching a heavyweight box. It's the difference between watching, like, you watch Glasgow in flow and Exeter in flow. It's like a little flyweight, you know, punching. Demetrius Johnson landing all kinds of crazy shots and scoring wonderful tries. You watch Toulon in show, it's the bomb.
It's the big heavyweight lad.
Yeah, big right hand just knocks the little guy out, and that's what they are. Because I've seen them in flow, and it's like every player on the pitch.
Was it last season or was it this
season
where we were watching a game where they were playing against Clermont? No, this is the game I'm trying to talk about.
You were watching it on telly, and it was just like,
it was a whole phase of literally everyone, like, it went through phase after phase where every single phase through the possession.
This was the top Couture's final.
It was the top Couture's final, where it ended with them scattering, like literally scattering them like a bowling pin at least 5 meters over that way.
There were different players.
And it was different players doing it. Yeah,
knocking people aside,
swatting them out of the way, and then ultimately going for the 3. And again, embodying everything wrong about top Couture's thinking about the game, where it's like, we've just dominated you, moved our way all the way up the pitch with ball in hand, let's kick the 3.
But as good as Scarlets are, and as quick as they can be in terms of moving around fat and lethargic teams, like, they certainly aren't impervious to that kind of physicality.
No, they aren't. But it's one of those games that matches up stylistically quite interestingly, more so than like even we were saying Exeter Glasgow, they're very similar moulded teams.
Yes.
This is one of those ones where it's like, which is going to win out, because they represent very different ideas around how to play rugby, and it could easily happen that Toulon starts low and Scarlets go try, because Scarlets can go try. That's one thing they can do.
One of the things that is true of Toulon, and is true of a lot of those kinds of teams, is that coming back from a distance becomes a really, really tough ask. It's not what they like to do. They like to get ahead of teams and stay ahead of teams.
On the lead.
So Scarlets start quick. They start like lightning, like they can do on the big occasions. Then Toulon are in big trouble. So Scarlets are in business. But if Toulon start and their fundamentals are better, their lineouts better, their scrums better, they start to
physically imprint themselves, and then you start, because that's when you'll start seeing the drop off. If they can get one or two good hits in.
When Manonu's in flow, exactly, and he just starts cracking your man. Who's the 10? Is my name Patchell. Patchell. If he just gets
who is a pretty good physical 10, but not in the league of a Bastro or
Nanu or Bastro or one of those guys,
and then he's shaky.
That's where Toulon's avenue for success comes. So for Toulon, it's going to be same old
disruption,
and for Scarlets, it's going to be same old. Like, what's going to be interesting to see is if Toulon kick the ball away. Because
that's danger.
That's real trouble.
Yeah.
They kick the ball away to the Scarlets back three, they're in all kinds of trouble. Scarlets will love it, and Scarlets won't kick it back to them.
No.
Not unless they have a reason to. They'll move the ball, they'll attack at pace.
They'll attack pretty wide as well. They'll try and bypass those centres.
See the fat lads getting tired early, and that's where the problem is. But if Toulon hold the ball, they don't even need to be that creative with it. If it takes 40 phases or however long it takes, if they can just wear at them, wear at the Scarlets. Like, this is why I say that Ty Byrne and John Barkley are going to have such a job, because they've got to get on the feet, they've got to steal that ball, they've got to attack that ball, they've got to stop them. We are knocking into everything here. They've got to stop them at source, and if they stop them at source, then you're starting to see the ability for Scarlets to get into the game, because Toulon have to kick it, and then Scarlets going to want their hands on the ball, and so are Toulon. In my estimation, the team that's going to come out on top is going to be the team that holds the ball a lot early. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. But I suspect that Toulon might do a job on Scarlets. I don't think that this year's iteration I don't necessarily believe the hype.
Yeah, I also think their path to the final, I don't know, it's going to sound like begrudgery, but like they hit form at the right time in last season. They kept themselves in the competition, managed to squeeze into the playoff spot ahead of they saw off the Ulster Challenge and a few others towards the tail end, and just kept that form going while the others floundered. And they were also they were striking well in open play, but they've always had a history of just floundering.
I really hope that Scarlets do it, but I'm a lot more optimistic about Glasgow's prospects than I am about Scarlets. I think that Toulon, the wily operators that they are,
Toulon at home as well, it's a tough ask. It is a tough ask for Scarlets as well. Even given Toulon's early season form.
But there's what's interesting about it, you say stylistically, is that absolutely I think the conditions are going to be good as well. So it's absolutely the tools are there for them to win it, and both sides know that they can win it. So it's going to be super interesting to see what happens. It's going to be super interesting to see how it looks. But Toulon, if they hold the ball, they can find tries, they can bully the Scarlets. So that's where I'm leaning. But Scarlets, brilliant team, can strike from anywhere, but we'll see.
It's also
we'll see game.
It's one of those like Toulon go 10-0 up, 10-7 straight away. Like, it can happen that way. I don't know, it'll be interesting for at least 60 minutes. I think you can
tell by how long we spent on each game which games are interesting, which games are not. There are so many games that are just uninteresting that you just have to bypass and talk about, and this team might win, this team might win. But then the real ones that you want to watch as students of the game, like, that's one of them. Toulon against Scarlets. Not necessarily teams that are going to win the competition, but certainly like an interesting lesson in rugby will be dealt out that day.
Indeed, exactly. So that'll be on Sunday at 4:15, and then at
3:15. That's local time.
4:15 local time. I beg your pardon. I don't know if you're watching from New Zealand. I don't know.
It's on at
stupid o'clock in the morning.
But you know what?
Get up.
You know what? I set the alarm.
Set thy DVR or thy alarm.
Set the alarm for Super Rugby. I don't want any excuses. I do it.
You're mental. Whatever. I set my DVR for Super Rugby games. I'm not that mental.
I get up. I watch it live. It's great. Do it. Come on, rugby nerds. That's the thing about New Zealand is, you want to be a rugby nerd, you got to watch Europe as well. We watch over there. We watch it all.
It's true.
You can't just be parochial about it. There's interesting games happening all over.
Because then you get your Australian resulting things where it's awful parochial a lot of the time.
You see Aussie commentary. To be fair, the Kiwis are not bad for it at all.
They're not.
But the Aussie commentary sometimes is so insular because they just don't know or care about like who is in Europe, and that's why they get like so pissed off and caught out when Scotland beat them. And it's like, guys, you haven't been paying attention. You don't even know what Scotland is. So
it's true.
Like in the World Cup in 2011 when they got caught out by the Ireland hold-up defensive tactic that they've been using
the whole season, and it's like, what did you not even do?
The commentators didn't even know the rule. The side seemed confused. The coach, I think it was Robbie Deans, was like really annoyed and offended, thinking this was nonsense, and like, we've been doing it for a year. What kind of a clown show are you running? So watch all the games.
Yeah,
is my point.
Yeah, it's the kind of long-winded, somewhat anti-Australian, which I don't want to be.
Yeah, I love
way of making
I don't know
that
why
point.
I went that way.
Yeah,
that was
no.
racist of me.
Not quite racist, maybe xenophobic.
Oh, he knows the words.
But yeah, no. Moving swiftly on from that somewhat offensive kind of segue.
I love you, Australia. I
do
want to
like
go
Australia.
there.
I like their colour commentary. I like Sean Maloney for his colour commentary. Actually,
Yeah.
I need more of him.
I
Although
guess
he's also.
my
guilty, like-
point is I will amend it
Okay.
to Robbie Deans, who is a Kiwi, I believe,
Mhm.
and Fox Sports Australia.
Yeah, okay.
There you
Fox
go.
Sports Australia.
I rescued
A more narrow criticism, which is
Yeah.
dead right.
Yeah.
Is that and even Sean O'Mahony's top 5, which I am a big fan of, but there were a few of them where it's like greatest ever tries and they're doing some kind of domestic Aussie tournament for one of them and you're just like, hang on, where's the O'Driscoll blah 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 and the thing, where's all all this, so moving swiftly on now.
Yes.
Second last game of the weekend. We'll wrap up this segment, which is only tipped over the hour just now, and we'll get on to wrapping up the Champions Cup. But
The
Rugby Championship is Northampton Saracens, which is an interesting, challenging game for both. Saracens are going to win it,
I think so.
but Northampton
Northampton
they are actually
up
third.
there.
They're up there. They've been doing pretty well.
6-4. I mean, they've got Harry Mallender at 10 instead of they've replaced your friend who you didn't like for years.
I can forgive
Stephen
Myler.
Yeah.
I hated. Do you know what it was? I hated the fact that we always seemed to play them. Because every year we'd have Northampton, and every year they'd have fucking Myler at 10, and every year he'd do the same thing and stand deep and kick the ball. He'd Elton Yankees all day long, and I just hate to see it. It's my least. He's my one of the least favorite 10s I have in the game currently.
I've
just got to know him so damn
now
well.
they've got a bit more. They've got a bit more to them this year.
Yeah.
They've got they're a decent side. Saracens are much
different animal entirely.
I suspect Saracens are going to click into gear again this year.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a well-oiled machine. I don't suspect it's a form thing. They obviously don't have Schalk Brits, which is like it's
a
such
lamentable
a factor.
loss.
It's such a factor because he is like one of these weird different dynamics to the team. Like they don't.
He does a very similar thing to Dane Coles when he like remember when he came off the bench last year. What game was it where he was just back from injury and he came off the bench? He was basically playing 10. He was first receiver for around 6 phases in a row and just moved them up the pitch.
He's a great man for when they're stalling.
Yeah, exactly.
But again, Saris are going to be they're just going to be. They're good. They're going to do it. I think
it's going to be cruise control. It has the makings of a kind of somewhat sloppy affair for maybe the first half before Saris end up winning it. One of those kinds of games where they flounder around a bit, but then ultimately just the quality tells in the end. Because I don't think Northampton Fortress at home even is a thing at Franklin's Gardens.
No, and again, this is sort of adding to my theme of.
You're just picking the rugby
players, and again, I don't think it factors into Saracens at all because they play games everywhere. They played a game, actually, it was an away game against Newcastle, but they played in Philadelphia this year. They play all over Europe. Saracens are the first absolute
franchise team.
franchise.
Yeah, it's also it's curious, but they started in like empty stadiums. They started playing in Wembley when it was empty, and before they got obviously not started like Saracens were around before. Sure, Shane Byrne played for Saracens in years gone by. But this iteration of Saracens, when they started investing properly in it and trying to get people involved, I remember reading about one of the games in Wembley where they were giving away tickets for like £3 or something along those lines. They're just trying to fill the seats desperately, and they're also playing games everywhere around. They were annoying Munster fans by playing music over their singing, which is poor form. I hate when South African teams do it as well, and New Zealand Kiwi teams do it as well. It's just coming from an Irish perspective, it makes no sense because it seems a pretty rare thing, but Irish teams are great at sporting. Irish fans are just great at sporting atmospheres. Creating, singing and chanting and getting involved with the game is a great thing. And I think a lot of countries miss out on it by not doing it. And we're always great value at things like football World Cups and always like a novelty with other teams and world media going mad, going like, oh, these crazy Irish singing songs. It's like, what are you talking about? You're all daft not doing it. And Saracens playing music over the travelling Munster fans who outnumbered their home fans quite conspicuously, which I suspect was part of the motivation for playing such tunes, drowning out the fields of Athenry with Rihanna between plays. What's that about? But what the net result now is a team that doesn't focus on the crowd as this notion of a 16th man, whereas that's very prevalent in places like Thomond Park.
Yes.
Where it's like, this is a factor. You need the crowd on side, and the players often cited as well, going like, it'd be great to be playing at home, get the crowd behind us. All Irish teams have that, where we want to make home a fortress, we want to make it loud, we want to make it quiet for the kicks but loud. And it's like, it's a good thing.
Saracens are totally about rugby, but they do have, as opposed to just being a franchise, they do have an English ethos. They play like an English team. They find tries like English teams find tries. They have that English mentality of just being above their station and arrogant, but not arrogant.
Well, it's not above their station. They're the champions of Europe.
Yeah,
so it's like,
well, I guess I'm sort of not putting it right. They have this charisma to them. They have this charisma to them. They have this they have a swagger is sort of the word I was looking for.
Swagger is good.
Where they find tries and they just look, they're playing with smiles on their faces, but it's intense. But the template works for them. Great personnel. I was just looking at their team. What I was doing there is trying to find out if Owen Farrell is returning for this week. He is. Owen Farrell, obviously really world class. First game back, could be an avenue for success for Northampton if he's rusty. But the beautiful thing about Saracens is that it's not in a Johnny Sexton way. It's not the Farrell show. Exactly. It can be the Itoji show, the Callum Clark show at times. It can be certainly the George Cruz show, Brad Barrett show, Alex Good show, now Liam Williams show. I mean, there's so many avenues for them. They've got a glorious looking team. It's got a wonderful balance to it. Even in the centres, you've got your Brad Barrett, you've also got Marcelo Bosch, you've got Alex Good at fullback, very solid, and then you've got your Liam Williams, a lot of counter attack there. Those two could link up and be stellar. And then obviously Farrell coming back is going to be huge for them. And I suspect
they have enough.
A bit like Ulster. I think a bit like Ulster, what Saracens are going to be looking to do, because they've got such a complete team, is make a statement. Is like Ulster again, who they're playing. Who are they playing again on the Friday night? We already talked about it. Oh my god, where my brain is becoming melty. We've just gone through so many teams in Europe. Ulster are playing Wasps.
Yes, in an interesting clash as well.
Very similar to Saracens playing Northampton. So these are two teams who are flatterers to deceive, could potentially go on a run, but are probably not going to compete, I would say. So what it is a chance for Ulster and a chance for Saracens to put them away. Like, it's going to be telling, like, are they going to struggle with them and find the winning try, which Saracens have been known to do, or are they going to put them away and score tries and keep scoring tries and put 40 on, as Saracens have also been known to do?
I suspect kind of a mixture of both, where they struggle with them for a while, but they don't find the winning try. They find 3 winning tries,
right, and
put the game to bed.
That
kind of thing, where it ends up being a bit of a score, but it took a while.
Like, they're above the level of Northampton. Are they going to put them aside the way they should? Probably. I think. Yeah.
In the Gardens, which is
similar story in the following game, which is Clermont Ospreys. I suspect Clermont will put them to bed too.
Ospreys look dire, dreadful this year, which means that they kind of missed the boat in terms of that great Ospreys team, in terms of ever competing in Europe.
Yeah, they've got to start from scratch.
And it's like it's a shame, and it's from a Leinster point of view, it's just perplexing, because we've had some of the toughest games in our history against that Ospreys team with bigger at 10, and
nobody else in Europe got to know them at all.
Not the real them who come to the RDS and actually play ball.
They are bottom of their conference in the Pro 14. They are
mental,
going nowhere. Not
get separate rugby up there in 4th. Class stuff. It's it's mental stuff going on in the Pro 14. You should all be watching it. Any Southern Hemisphere out there, guy, and watch
Pro 14.
Watch Pro 14. It's the closest thing you'll get to your Super Rugby fix in the off season, because do not watch the top counters.
Premiership is
good crack too as well. To be fair.
It just has. There are some really ugly games in the Premiership as well. It depends who's playing. Very much depends who's playing.
Yeah. It also just doesn't have the international dynamic. And I am also loving Bloemfontein. We didn't discuss that actually. Leinster lost their first ever game. Leinster are 0-1 against the Cheetahs.
In fact, we were probably, the last time we were here, we were probably very happy with Leinster.
We were.
Leinster going quietly along.
I think we did say something along the lines of, or you said something along the lines of, they'll just swat the Cheetahs aside.
Did I say that?
Something along those lines. But no, it did not happen. We sent a bunch of kids to South Africa and we got what we deserved.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Wrapping up the Champions Cup, Clermont got to win that. Look at the Champions Cup. This is the elite level of European rugby. It's the best. It's one of the best tournaments in European rugby, in rugby in general. To be honest, I love it. and it's great to have it back.
It is great to have it back. It's proper season, and we're going to go to the game.
Be in
the RDS on Saturday, and it's going to be class.
That could do us for Northern Hemisphere rugby.
Yeah.
That's been started with that. Like I imagine we have a lot of Kiwi viewers, or I don't even know who we have.
Just imagining.
Q&A segment. Please come in, tell us who you are, ask us a question.
Leave a comment, leave a question, and we'll guarantee if there are any question marks in that comment section, we will reply to all.
Sure, there are analytics to look at, but I couldn't for the life of me find them as to where people are from. So it'd be easier if you told us.
True enough.
But I'm sure we picked up some Southern Hemisphere fans just talking about the Southern Hemisphere rugby. But it's nice to get in our perspective that we do care about our stuff. We care about our stuff quite a bit indeed.
If not slightly more.
Perhaps,
we are a bit like we're invested in come on Leinster.
Yeah.
We're rooting for him. We're not as optimistic as we have been in seasons gone by.
I just don't see, like I saw last year, the patterns taking shape, like the foundations being laid in September.
And I see glaring weaknesses in the centre. Still see glaring weaknesses in the centre. If you put impotency, and with like it just makes Sexton's job all that much harder when you don't have weapons outside you to utilise. I think, and it's being too passive, too flat. And we've thrown I think 6 intercepts in the last 3 games. That's another thing.
Playing flat to the line, but not obviously with enough variables.
No, not enough decision making. And there's still this thing which I cited before, like Tyke Furlong was playing that role of being taken to the line and throwing the pop. But unlike a Kiwi, where I'll do it to the camera, where he'll fix and he'll give like that. Like Tyke Furlong has this tendency to fix and then give the ball like that, and it's like, well, what are you doing? Who are you committing that way? You need to sell.
You need to be an option.
You need to simulate.
It's not even simulation. You're running as if you're going to carry, and if the defender sticks to you, you're giving it. And if the defender drifts off you, you're going. And that's
it's a technical thing as well. I don't like players who do that and pass before they do it. And there are a few out halves who are guilty of it in the top level of the game as well, where they just stand a bit deep. Ross Byrne being one, very low, close to home, but there are others too who just do that. And it's the same thing when you see a slightly sloppy scrum half just taking step give, and it's not a step that commits the line, it's just a step that wastes time and invites a blitz on you.
Everybody knows what you're going to do, which is not what you want. What you want is that Sarri's template of I could do anything, and then I'm going to go this way. But for sure we're excited about the Champions Cup. I hope that was sufficient sort of breakdown of all the games. We got technical on the ones that we care about, I suppose. You can't care about every game, guys. You just can't.
It'll break your heart.
Bath and Treviso is a tough one to get excited about. In fact, even though it's a match between alleged heavyweights Leicester and Racing, is a tough match to care about. It's going to be ugly.
Yeah, watch it. If you've been watching any of the top tours this year, it's enough to tell you that just any game played on French soil will
But I will say though, as someone who likes France and the French people and has liked French rugby and wants to see the French international team do well, I kind of hope, and we're already down on that because Pau won this morning, but I kind of hope to see every top tours team lose, because the aesthetic of the tournament is wrong. They have good players playing terribly, playing slow. It's stuttering. It's poor. It's just physically tougher, but it's so stuttering that I just think it's the wrong way for rugby to move, and I think it's being surpassed in terms of skill set by both the Pro 14 and the Premiership. So what I would like to see is all of those Franco Anglo and Franco Pro 14 clashes to result in losses for France. I know it's optimistic. Obviously, Clermont playing Ospreys, there's not much hope there. But it would be nice to see that happen. But I suspect they will get their share of victories
and carry on as ever.
Yeah, and to be fair, like Toulon winning against Scarlets, I think will be a loss for our mindset and our rugby. It's quite possible, and it's a very interesting clash of styles.
But the good guys winning would be Scarlets.
But Montpellier beating Leinster is legitimately a top contender beating a top contender, and that's fine. I'm not that's fine. Although it didn't break my heart.
Montpellier also are not involved in that. They're involved in the criticism of Ujala in terms of they are a manufactured team, they are money things, but in terms of their rugby style of play and the rugby that they're implementing, they are actually doing it the right way and doing it at pace. And that's why they're having such success in the top tours as well.
There's an art form to it that Boujalal doesn't get, because Boujalal is like, he has no idea what he's talking about. And this is the thing when he's talking about assembling this, like...
He spends a load of money on Lee Halfpenny, not realising that he's a kicker who's not the kind of linked man 15 that they want in that team. Then it doesn't work. Then he treats him terribly.
There was this big article a few years ago of Toulon saying, we want to put together the great the team with we want to buy, I think, the 5 best players in the world. And one of them was Dan Carter, who they didn't get, but a few of them they did get. Nonu and Halfpenny, a couple of others. But like, there was no understanding of how to put a rugby team together. There was no understanding of what you need in a rugby team, what kind of balance you need. Like, if this guy's at 12, who's going to complement him at 13? And this is why you see like bastardizations like the Nonu-Bastero combination, which are just utter nonsense. Like, absolutely, like, what a waste of both of those players to have them next to each other.
Yeah, and it's done such a disservice to Nonu, who looks like an only man. He's literally operating on his own, making money. But it's crazy stuff, and they play so slowly. God, they're painful.
So they just like use Nonu as a Jamie Roberts, and it's like Nonu likes to try things, but he probably gets himself yellow carded quite a bit. But like, it's just an utterly asinine way of doing things. This idea of the best players in the world, as opposed to let's assemble the best team. And that's the difference between what Montpellier have done. Montpellier have their Frenchmen at their back row. They have a lovely balance, and they have such a versatility of options. They're so comfortable playing in so many different ways. They're jacks of all trades. They're not a stylistically committed team, and that's what I like about them.
It's also a scary thing to prep for.
Yes,
like. Yeah, no, it's dangerous times if you're a Leinster fan going to the RDS this Saturday, which we are. But moving on, we have normally, like, we flipped it around. For the last few weeks we've been starting with it, but as we mentioned at the top of the podcast, the Rugby Championship finished up in our absence from YouTube, and it finished with an absolute rasper. Oh, and it didn't actually. It was the game after, but the penultimate game of it was such a class game. South Africa, New Zealand in South Africa, which we watched in the pub after the Leinster-Munster match, and it was unreal. The quality of some of the play there from both sides was great. I
thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was great.
I was relieved. I was delighted. The All Blacks were not off form. No, there was elements to what the Springboks did that was just wonderful, and it was everything I suspected was true about their potential. Like, they revealed that they have a pack that can compete, that can win a World Cup. That can win a World Cup, no question.
They need a new halfback.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get to that. But there are issues. There are still issues permeating through that team. But there is no question now with Stephen Kitsoff as a good option, Beeston Tawera as a good option. A lot of people, I thought there was like this recurring comment going around the internet as like, congratulations on Stephen Kitsoff retiring Beeston Tawera today. And I was like, no, they complement each other. You need two loose heads who are class. They're class, the two of them. Great loose ball players, great scrummagers. They still have an issue with tight head, but their scrum is class. Their line out, they have infinite options. Eben Etzebeth again.
He was in marauding form in the loose, which is good. He has a touch of the is why I'm not mad about him as captain, but he has a touch of the same thing as Rhys Ruddock that we accuse of, where sometimes he takes games off.
Yes.
And it's like, what are you doing there? You're not throwing your body around with any kind of purpose.
But it's the kind of personality type that can flourish at a World Cup.
Indeed, true.
And again,
it's also the kind of personality that can lose to Japan at a World Cup. Shot fired
to Japan.
They did. That did happen.
They lost.
But wait till next time when Georgia beat Australia. As preempting.
Georgia. We don't even know if Georgia are in Australia's group. In fact, we probably do know that they're not. But I just have a prediction that that'll be the moment Georgia rise to the top. They'll beat Australia for some reason. Again, having an unfair go at the Aussies. It could be Ireland they beat. It nearly was.
Actually be Ireland. I reckon if Ireland send a bunch of kids out to play a tour of Georgia, they would find it tough.
Certainly tougher than they found Japan this year.
Indeed, yeah. That was a very disappointing series. Actually, I was
Japan are fading. They're not the team they were. Eddie Jones is gone.
Yeah,
the magic dust has left the building,
and he's talking about getting England harvesting their talent. It was scary times. Scary times for anyone not England. But
Gordon Ramsay's rugby nightmares. That's what Eddie Jones does.
Yeah,
pops in and just, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. I'll fix it.
Yeah, he's great. I love it.
Eddie Jones is a serious rugby man, and he's going to have England in flying form. But the Springboks, in terms of a team that can absolutely win the World Cup, They are absolutely brilliant. Their back row, again, that back row that they sort of stumbled upon with Peter Steff at 7, lovely variation. Francois Lowe at 8, brilliant breakdown operator. They were so good at the breakdown. They were constantly.
It removed the Uzair Kasim, like
the empty jersey factor,
of it, and it introduced
every jersey has a use in that pack. Every jersey has something different to do. It's still not true of their backline quite, but that pack put together as a unit beat the shite out of the All Blacks. They beat them. They clearly, like Sam Whitelock, eat your heart out. I know
Sam Whitelock was just back from injury.
I know there was no Brodie Retallick.
There was no Brodie.
This is the difference with an All Black team. And when we talk about the All Blacks being impenetrable, they look significantly more penetrable without Brodie Retallick. Every time the guy is huge for them. It's difficult to overstate how big he is for them. He's bigger than Bowden Barrett, I think.
Yeah.
The difference, just like you slot Barrett out and Supawonga in, even though Supawonga looks gratuitously
Scott
worse.
Barrett actually had one of the weaker performances I've ever seen from him on that day. He got outmatched, got bullied,
never faced
and then started
like
floundering, started throwing loose passes and such. Yeah, no, he was disappointing.
But certainly, but I was actually thinking Bowden Barrett. I think he's bigger.
Yeah,
I think Brodie Retallick is bigger than Bowden Barrett. That team, as good as Bowden Barrett is, and even when you take Barrett out and put Supawonga in, you notice a difference in class. But they're still just as likely to win with Supawonga's 10.
Just very likely to score even still.
Yeah,
you know,
but with Brodie Retallick out, there's an avenue for really getting at them. And they, again, like they were in that first test for a little while, they did use that pick and jam. They got on them. They also found tries. The difference now is in the back line is like they have to understand where their problems are, and I think everyone is starting to understand it again.
Well, Yankees was getting all kinds of patience in the media immediately responding
and
to
again,
it.
Shane here, who saw it 2 years ago in Elton Yankees and has been saying it ever since, gets huge early call credit for that one.
Yeah, I don't want it though because I just want to see him gone. It's like I just want to not see him anymore. Actually, the same thing that where I was railing against Stephen Myler. The exact same thing. It's just I've seen him too often and I've always thought it. And actually the same thing, even though Cronje did grab that try, which was good of him, but that try is always there if a scrum half's willing to take it with that New Zealand team. That is the avenue for success. So it was good that he got it, but he also made some horrendous defensive errors, was throwing some loose passes himself, aimless kicks at times. It's just
Did you see what Augustine Poulou did, by the way? I know this is a tangent, but Cross Cronje got that try, got to the base of the post. Did you see what Augustine Poulou did in the Mitre 10 Cup?
No.
I can't remember who the teams were, but Augustine Poulou was playing defensively and the opposition were attacking the line, and they were the base of the post try was there, and he went up to the base of the post, ripped it off and threw it over the dead ball line. I know.
Why?
To stop them from scoring against the base of the post. And the ref stopped the game, said we can't pin him because it's not an offence technically, and gave a scrum to the attacking team.
Are you serious?
I know.
That's mental. That's crazy talk.
He has to be like, that's a red card.
Come on.
I know, but he did it. Augustine Poulou ripped the base of the post off and chucked it over his dead ball line, and the ref stopped the game. He's like, it's too dangerous to play with the pole there and I have to go scrum opposition. Scrum to the team with the ball.
That's crazy.
That's ridiculous, isn't it?
That has to be something that's remedied immediately, so that it can never happen.
Isn't that just absurd?
So against the spirit of the game. That's why you feel like there should be some kind of like vague unsportsmanlike conduct type call that would be a blanket thing for all things that.
Because so much of rugby refereeing is dictated by common sense. Like there's always an offence at every breakdown if you want to look at it technically, but it's dictated by common sense. It's dictated by Nigel Owens understanding the flow of the game.
It is dictated by Nigel Owens.
Understanding what the flow of the game is, understanding what's being done. Like is that guy who's in at the side actively stopping someone from taking the ball, or is that guy
also communication is key. This is one we're going to segue a little bit into and rail against Jaco Piper, because I think we were
which match was he in charge of that he was just awful in recently? Jaco Piper.
Was it the Aussie game?
Might have been.
I think it might have been the Aussie Argentina game, but it's one of those ones where what we like about Nigel Owens and Nigel Bjugg, Ben Whitehouse, who is Nigel Bjugg.
Bjugg is the word for small in Irish. Nigel Bjugg, baby Nige as I call him as well.
Because but he does the same thing. He has the same habit, which is what we love. Which is like when a player is being illegal at a ruck, it's like hands off, 4, hands off, like communicating with him. Whereas Yako does the exact opposite, and it's where refs get guilty of as well, where they just don't communicate and then blow their whistle for a penalty.
Yes, yeah,
and it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
you can't do that in the modern game. You need to be communicating. You need to be constantly talking on your ref to all the players. Every breakdown, you need to be saying whether that's fine or get out. You need to be communicating with the players so that the play can flow. Whereas too many refs are too whistle happy and stop play and disrupt games and frustrate teams because there's no flow to it. And there's also, it's much harder to gauge consistency or gauge what a ref wants when they're not communicating.
It creates a wild card factor in terms of who wins a game when a ref does that. And that was sort of the case with Yako in recent weeks. I've seen him a couple of times really struggle as a ref, and then penalty counts are high and they're to both teams, because again, if you're just saying I'm just officiating to the law book, that's what happens, because there's always little infringements everywhere. But you need to isolate what you want from a game. You need to tell both teams beforehand.
Tell both captains what
you want from a game, what you want people not to do at a breakdown, what you want people to do at a breakdown, and then constantly say it during the match and be consistent with it. Like, am I going to rudimentally enforce the tackle assist law? If you're touching a player before you get to deck, you must disengage, then go for the ball. Or am I going to sort of make tackle assist an actual assistant of a tackle? This is a really weird one, tackle assist, because different refs have different interpretations. I've seen some refs go like, even if he touches you at all, then you're assisting a tackle, so you can't go for the ball until you've disengaged.
Whereas a more lenient approach is that if he's already going down and you kind of grab his jersey, are you really assisting that tackle, or are you just latching on for the ball? It is open to interpretation,
but you have to be clear about that.
Clear, concise communication. It's a bit of a segue, but it's something that needed to be said, and it's actually something that we kind of dawned on us a little bit in that absence as well. Just more specifically, we've always rated Nigel as a better ref than anyone by and large.
But that's one of the key reasons why.
It's more so like loads of people love him for the YouTube soundbite clips and the compilations of him.
That's why he's a good comic. That's not why he's good.
That's why he's good crack and good way of promoting the game in that way. But no, what makes him an excellent ref is exactly that communication. It was also what made Alan Rowland an excellent ref before he decided to pack it in, was that he could do it in both French and English, and he did communicate as well. He was very clear. But there's something to that. Anyway,
and also just understanding what's needed to make this game work. And it is more than the law book. And I was worrying, you were listening to a podcast recently, I wish we could cite it, but you were hearing like a referee was on that podcast, and he was saying that refs don't have an obligation to make a game flow. And my perspective on that is, I couldn't disagree more. The law book is very specific about everything, and if you enforce every rule rudimentary, if you believe that's just your role, then the game is going to be a hot mess, and it's going to be just an absolute like wild card for who wins and who doesn't win. You have to have an understanding of what makes this game work, and a huge responsibility of it is common sense.
As much as you're getting into the nitty gritty of doing it, like I want a referee similar to a coach to have a big picture view in mind of rugby, and like you want to have a picture to a game.
Blatant side entries get called, but if you were to pin every side entry in a game, every in at the side in every game, there'd rarely be an attacking phase that goes beyond 10 phases, because always there's someone who's not entirely in at the gate. But what matters is context. Is he removing a player who's in the way, or is he just stepping over a ruck when the ball is there already, in which case pinning him in the side is madness, because there's nobody there. So it matters if in the process of a clean out he's going in at the side and getting leverage on a potential stealer of a ball, then that's clearly a penalty. But if he's not, if he's just stepping over the side to bridge a ruck like that, then how could you pin him? Because there's nobody there. It just feels like
whistle.
It's just utterly pernickety and ridiculous and against the spirit of the game. And that's the context that referees need to understand. And Yako again is a guy who really isn't understanding what makes a game flow, and is just confusing the teams around him, which is a terrible sign in a referee. Terrible sign.
I hate to see it. So segue complete, but that was something I kind of did want to get off my chest for some reason. But
talking about refs is good. We need to. But the Springbok team, which we were talking about a while ago now, but the Springbok team, wonderful balance to it. That back row, wonderful balance to it. See Khaleesi again in the wide channels, can be ravaging through teams. It wasn't a factor so much.
Still frailties at wing when they're not in possession.
One of the themes of this weekend was that the form players of the tournament kind of did have weird off days when they weren't quite in it, and see Khaleesi was one of those guys. Curly Beale was another who was like, it might just be fatigue. Maybe. It just all got to him, and see Khaleesi went off pretty early actually for Peter Steph's Peter Steph Jr., Jean-Luc Dupré.
Peter Steph Jr.
He is Peter Steph.
Are you kidding me?
He is Peter
Steph
Steph Jr.
Yeah, no, he's a class act as well. And there was no Sia Khaleesi
but it wasn't about him.
Yeah,
the game was about Francois Lowe coming into the side and being a huge weapon at the breakdown, and then Peter Steph at 7, which should have been happening.
When did that happen?
I noticed that a while ago. I got over it.
Oh,
but Peter Steph at 7 again was a revelation, and then it was kind of like, why weren't you doing this the whole time?
Yeah.
But that back row has an awesome balance to it. That whole pack has a World Cup winning feel to it. The issues, as you say, were at half back in Elton Yankees, error after error after error after error.
Charge down try.
Yeah.
Aimless kicks getting punished. I'm liking to see
that intercept
becoming a trend this season.
Was Elton as well?
Oh yeah.
An absolute. No, actually, I don't believe it was. I think Pollard was on the pitch at that stage. It was someone else threw that intercept. It might have been Cronia. I can't remember who it was. Threw that intercept.
It's annoying. I did watch the highlights just before doing this, but you know, there were just glaring weaknesses. It was unfortunate that the wingers actually had a pretty poor game themselves as well, including
Dylan Lades, who I do want to compliment. I mean, we were giving out and saying, I think as I said comments about quotas last time we were talking, we were saying like, you got to replace, like if you are going to replace the two wingers, the natural slot-ins would be Combrink and maybe Villy LaRue, and maybe they're not getting in because of their race. But then you replace him with Dylan Lades, who looks infinitely better than Raymond Rolle. Very balanced player, very good operator, defensively sound,
gets
much
involved.
more smart in coverage, and comes off his wing, eager to play. Yeah, which is good to see. Courtney Stassan,
he got a bit of a tower time.
He did,
on that day.
Well, Rico Ioane is on fire.
Exactly. That's true too. But they still just target. I like the way they targeted it as well, and they went again with.
Well, they actually
had
Elton defending on the right wing one of those times, and Rico Ioane attacked him and just got around him, and that was the try that Rico knocked it on over the line.
I remember
came from an Elton missed tackle, and God, it'd make you cry.
I just thought, and Pollard came on and made that class try where he took it against the grain back at it, which is like a good thing to see. It's good, like we were talking about.
Their attack had much more variety, and then the difference was a 10 who can attack the line, because that changes things. And Pollard can stand back and give a pass, but then he can also attack the line. And the difference, Elton tries from time to time to attack the line.
But it's the same thing I was criticising Noel Reid about, and I think it's like he doesn't. He's not going to win the contact.
Yeah.
Whereas
Pollard is, and Pollard is also quicker, much more decisive in what he does, and much more eager to get an offload away outside of that tackle, and that's what made the try. Jan Serpentine and Jesse Creel getting better every week, getting more accustomed to each other every week, learning every week. This is the World Cup centre partnership, so I'm starting to see a template for a Springbok team that can win a World Cup. They have problems on the wing. Andres Coetzee, by the way, was magnificent against the All Blacks. He was coming into the game doing everything that he needs to do from fullback, attacking.
He was trying very hard. They had a wonderful first half as well. Even when they were struggling, when they went behind, he was playing them back in by just doing exactly that. Robustly going into contact.
So now you're looking at a team
refusing to go down.
That I think, even after the 57-0 shellacking, I think that team as it's presented there with Uzair Kassim out, gone, good luck to you. And a few other crucial decisions. Peter Steph in the back row. Now you got 3 of your awesome second rows instead of just 2. Great calls. 2 solid loose heads that are really good scrummagers. And Malcolm Marks, who we haven't talked about yet, doing what we need Springbok hookers to do.
Rugby.
And we were saying all year we were forgiving Malcolm Marks for not quite being at the level. He was obviously still playing well, solidly at set piece, doing his thing, but we knew this performance was in him. He is one of those Springbok hookers that takes the world by storm. Another Schalk Brits, another Bismarck Duplessis. He is on that level, and we saw it against the All Blacks, demolishing them at breakdown time. Forget about it. Every time they went into the contact, doesn't matter who it is. Says Sam Cane, eat your heart out.
This is it. I still have my ears about Sam Cane. I still do.
He has class performances.
He has some class performances, but I don't think he's the right build for a 7, and I think Matt Todd's better.
Yeah, you could be right. Matt Todd came on early and got beat up by Malcolm Marks. This superhuman
Malcolm Marks mode activated,
and he got the assist for Jean-Luc Dupree's try, and then got his try as well at the very end. He was dragging them back. Curly Beale for Australia against the All Blacks, he was dragging them and refusing to let it die. As Yankees was desperately trying to kill it.
That's what it needs to happen. Get those halfbacks out of there.
That's the thing.
Out of there.
What I'm starting to see.
And Pollard.
Like, you were saying mindset wise they're miles off, everything they're miles off. What I'm seeing there is a Springbok team in the mould of an old school Springbok team whose weapons are in the set piece and at the breakdown, and they have a centre partnership that's about to work. They can attack with a bit more dynamism. They have got guys who can move into first receiver in Jan Serpentine and Andres Kutsia. So what I'm actually seeing is a template for a Springbok team.
Percy Montgomery, do you remember him?
Yeah. Very good player.
Kutsia reminds me a little of him. That kind of swagger, but also an assured swagger.
That's a compliment.
It is
a
World
Cup winning fullback.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, super compliment. But he is that mould of player. He's very, very attritional and
very aware as well, aware of everything that's around him.
Indeed.
So what I'm actually seeing as a Springbok team, not that's going to win a World Cup, but that can win a World Cup, a team that's going to be a World Cup contender, minus what they need are proper world-class wingers and proper world-class halfbacks. So that's 4 positions they need to worry about for their starting 15, and then obviously their bench needs to be used better.
Yeah. Delindy.
Well, we were talking about Delindy the last week. We were talking about him the whole tournament. It's just this ridiculous selection at 23. Just this mind-blowingly dumb use of your bench.
Yeah.
What a waste. You get one back in your entire bench, and you're picking this like
you'd be better off having Raymond Rowe.
Yeah, you're picking this bland inside centre who's not going to add anything to your team. He can do some of what Serpentine can do without being able to pass the ball, you know. And then he came on and had a brain fart and cost them the match. Elbowing a guy in the head. Not a good move.
No. Some would say downright ridiculous. It was so silly, man. I'm glad that they lost, because I think those lessons can only be learned with results. I think rugby's a fickle game that way, where it's only results that tell. And had they won that game, it would have been, oh, go on Yankees, you legend, you kicked that kick.
It wouldn't have been though, because
you kicked that kick.
I think everyone saw Yankees had the game that
was coming.
That everyone realised. Exactly. So, but it was the game that got everyone else to realise exactly what he is and exactly where his frailties are, and he's just a club level 10, and that's it. And you need to look elsewhere. But Pollard could be an answer. So again, you might also
Pollard and Lambie was watching Racing in the stands in his jersey.
Well, again, like the Box don't have that rule, so if he comes back for Racing, he'll come back for the Box, so that's fine.
That's much better if you have Pollard starting with Lambie at 21,
22,
22 even.
And then you need to find yourself a proper scrum half. The answer is right there in Cobus Reinach. But
Reinach, Faf on the bench. Bada bing, bada boom.
And there's a team that can win a World Cup. There's a team that'll go into a World Cup with the same prospects
and Villy LaRue
as Ireland and Australia.
Villy LaRue at 23. Yeah, much better option than Delindy. Much more like maybe he's a bit too chaotic for a Springbok team to start him.
He is.
Maybe.
Yeah.
But he's a great element off the bench.
Yeah.
For to change things in the exact right way when you need things.
Yeah.
So there's still question marks over the thinking of their coaching panel.
But they're going to get Rassie Erasmus
There's still Rassie Erasmus to come in.
Like I often thought after 57-0 we were in the mould of berating them. But I definitely, and I think I said to you, hopefully it was in the podcast so I can take credit, but if it wasn't, I'll just let it go. But I think I have been thinking that they weren't dead, like that was an awful result and a disgrace to Springbok rugby, but the elements are there for a team that can win a World Cup.
Thought that they'd been dead.
Right.
I think that Kutsia needs to go, that the quota system needs to go, and that they need to start picking the class players that they have, because that was the other thing we said last podcast, is that like it's not the same problem that Australia have, where it's struggling for popularity and they're not producing players, and outside of their top 25 players in the country who are legitimately world class, the rest of them are shite. It's not that. This is a country that has maybe 200 international level players who are scattered around the globe.
It's going to be interesting because the quota system isn't entirely in effect yet. I think it comes in around 2020. But I think they're like it might be gradually implementing. But if Rassie comes in, Rassie Erasmus, and then they could Rassie Erasmus, Brendan Mentor in that coaching staff, whatever about the head coach, and I actually think Alistair Kutsia is quite a meek personality.
So he's the kind of guy pulled either side by a willing Dick Cheney-ish lieutenant.
Yes, yes. So I think that if you get those really smart guys in, and they pick just the best team, and then that best team, which we were just naming there, I didn't even bother to count the amount of black players or Asian players or whatever your quota system dictates. Like, if you just pick that team, which is the best rugby team, and they start winning matches, like, are they seriously going to start like going, okay, well, we have to actually drop players because we have to find a player? Like, I think one of them was like Indian, because South Africa has quite a few Indian quite a big Indian population. I was like, surely they'd be playing the cricket, you know. But are they going to pick like an Indian?
Yeah, that's
racist,
man.
No, it's not. It's popular in India. I mean,
I know, yeah.
But
playing kabaddi, man.
Playing kabaddi, which is cracking sport. Like.
This is the other thing.
Will they actually force them to drop players from a winning side? Is my question. Or will the public backlash just be too much? Like if that side end up going.
It's also winning. No, I don't know. It's purely speculation, but I can't imagine the quota system's that popular in the black community in South Africa.
I can't imagine it's popular anywhere. Yeah,
like in South Africa, because like I'm thoroughly doubtful that that's what they wanted. I think it reeks of white guilt idea rather than black guy
it's
idea.
not a proper solution.
It's not a solution
to the fact that black people
ridiculous.
are playing rugby. Like, of course you want that, and of course ultimately, like, there is something wrong if 90% of your rugby playing populace or your high level rugby playing populace are white in a country that is predominantly black. Like, you're thinking, okay, there is probably some racism going on here. Like, there's probably some weird thing where rugby schools aren't letting black kids in. But the problem is at the grassroots. Like, it's not enough just to say, okay, we'll solve it with a quota from the top level, so you have to have such and such. Like, the problem is not enough people are playing rugby in that community. Not like, if you want that, that's what you have to implement, and that's true integration of a society. I know we're getting into politics and all kinds of mad things, but the solution isn't this slack-jawed nonsense approach which doesn't actually do the hard work to combat racism in any way.
And in fact probably pisses a few more people off
and creates distaste between the two communities.
Exactly, it is because it's a distasteful thing to do.
People begrudging guys like Sia Khaleesi, who is carrying the team. You don't need to be begrudging that guy, but you do need to be inspiring the next generation of Sia Khaleesi. There could be 15 of them by the next generation. That's what you want.
Indeed.
We started off with Chester Williams, we got Brian Habana, we got Sia Khaleesi, and maybe gradually, just because naturally so athletic that community is, the whole team could be. But it starts with the kids. You know, that's where you got to start. Yeah.
So
Springboks, I am confident now that hopefully they can do something. They could let me down again. They could go the wrong way. They could start picking guys who are just laissez-faire, who are throwing the ball around, who aren't thinking about winning the game the way the Springboks should be thinking about winning games. But this,
Serpentine gets injured
if they are
before the World Cup.
Well,
game over.
That would suck. But if they do look at from a rugby perspective at this template that of how to beat the All Blacks, which they basically did without Yankees there to lose it for them, like, that template is Springbok rugby. Breakdown, scrum, line out, you know, all of those fundamentals. That's Springbok rugby, and you'd have to be blind not to see it. So I suspect that they did.
But it's also, like, off the back of that as well, for that to have any success, you need to have a prolific 10.
Yes,
you need to. Like, you can't play a pack oriented
Andre
game.
Pollard could be that, though.
He could be. He has that swagger about him. He has that physicality to him, and I just it boggles my mind that he hasn't been, considering he's been back on the bench for so long, how they weren't, like, immediately. Same as like what Saracens did. He was like, Farrell comes back, he's straight back starting, which is risky. We know. In Leinster we did the same. Johnny Sexton had his hiatus post Lions tour, but then he's straight back in at 10 because you need him at 10 because Ross Byrne isn't the answer at 10. Whereas what South Africa did was have Ross Byrne. We're going to make it a Leinster thing. Have him playing poorly at 10 the whole tournament long. Get your superstar back with 3 games to prepare for the final test against the All Blacks, and then not use him. Not plan on getting him into the starting 23, have him come on with 4 minutes left with no idea what he's doing, and then end up coming on and making a brilliant play in the final game because his quality showed, but it was too little too late. He'd already had Yankees blowing the game.
If we're like, obviously the chance to beat the All Blacks, blowing that sucks, as we well know. But it's a one-off game. The tournament was gone. There was no trophies. There were no trophies coming out of this season for them anyway.
It's true.
As a building block, it's good. It's good, and like, you'd have to be blind not to learn the lessons from a Springbok perspective of what you should be doing and how you can beat the All Blacks. And those lessons, I suspect, might be learned. So
I hope so.
We'll see.
I hope so, because again, the tools are all there. It's not like Australia where they don't have the players.
From an All Black perspective, we always do this when the All Blacks are playing. We talk about the team that they were playing for half an hour, and then we're like, oh, by the way, All Blacks the best team ever. You know, and
by the way, though, the All Blacks are the best team ever.
Yeah, and they so are. They so are.
Pretty damn sweet, yo.
Rico Ioane, they found a real life superstar. I mean, it's just
Damian McKenzie. What a try!
Yeah, that was glorious.
Beautiful glide on the outside.
Comes on, slips a few people. Delicious outside the back door pass, and Mackenzie, like lightning, he can strike, and that's like. My head just went to compare him to Keith Earls with Munster, but that's such a disservice to Damien Mackenzie. It's madness. But
I'd be more close to saying Brian O'Driscoll, even though he's a 15.
Yeah,
he's like the way he glides past tackles and makes people look foolish.
Yeah,
world class people look foolish. But the other unspoken thing about him is how quality he is as a defender. A last defender, he makes reads brilliantly. He shuts the door very, very well for not a big man. And he did make some key plays. In defence.
But then finding that winning try, striking like that, the heart of who the All Blacks are.
Indeed. Which is why it was so bonkers. We were pleading with the world, to no one, it seems, when we were making a podcast over the Lions tour. But like.
Yeah, well,
where
Steve,
was he?
To be fair,
we never saw him play.
We never saw him play
against the Lions,
which he should have. He played one game out of position from
in a
10
hodgepodge
for the
merry nonsense team.
Who the All Lions were always going to beat in my mind. Like the Super Rugby teams always had a better chance than the Merries, because this is modern rugby. Like the Merries are no longer going to be that thing where
the Barbarians aren't either.
Yeah, exactly. The Barbarians just get curbed by everybody. Fiji will start beating the Barbarians soon enough. Fiji obviously haven't had a great season. Barbarians are going to cease to be a team that can win games, I think, because it takes more than that. It takes more than that to win rugby matches these days. It takes being in sync. But putting Damien Mackenzie in there and sticking with him all season, and then having your faith rewarded with the winning try against the Springboks when you were in trouble, that's a seriously beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's great.
Steve Hansen is really wrestling now with Michael Cheika and Eddie Jones for Coach of the Year this year. It's going to be a tough old one. If we're going to have to do a Coach of the Year come December. November internationals are probably going to decide who gets it.
Yeah, Dave Rennie could be up there. Didn't win any trophies yet. If Glasgow do it though.
If Glasgow keep doing it, obviously Vern Cotter as well. Moving on to Montpellier and having them clicking like they're clicking after clicking with Scotland so much.
No, there's some quality coaching around. But the quality of coaching across the board has improved.
I respect Steve Hansen so much for understanding his mistake with the Lions tour, picking this team, picking a team to attack, picking an All Black team to be the All Blacks, and then going and doing it. And obviously their pack, there are concerns without Brodie Retallick, like the romanticised selection of Dane Coles come back to bite them a little bit in the scrum. Needing a bit of that Cody Taylor sometimes, but
also Kane Hames.
But Kane Hames is not the answer. But they bought they got their way out of it the way the All Blacks get the way out of it, by finding clutch tries, awesome clutch tries, catching defenders out and picking, because you can say like Milner Scudder's a risk, Dane Coles is a risk, Rico Ioane's a risk, and you'd be much safer with a more conservative, getting your Leo Mapes in there and the boys like they did in the Lions tour. But then you don't have that bailout factor. When you're in trouble, who's going to just get you out of trouble? And it's always one of them, but you need enough of them that it can happen.
It used to be Ben Smuff, but it's Damien Mackenzie, and Damien Mackenzie is going to be a hard man to shift from that jersey when Ben Smith returns from hiatus. But he goes on the wing, or 13.
One of them goes on the wing. Ben Smith can go on the wing. But Ben there'll be the 15 jersey will be a difficult thing. Like we say, the Springboks have a team that compete for the World Cup, but an All Black team with a fully fit Retallick, a Ben Smith at 13, Mackenzie on fire at 15, Crotty at 12. I mean, it's just insanely good. They are insanely good. They were a little bit off form. Well, they weren't really. They were bullied.
They were bullied in the pack with a few misselections. Things like they could have done with Dane Coles coming off the bench instead. I think that was something legitimately they could have changed. Sam Kane was bullied.
Sam Kane was bullied. Kieran Reid made some clutch plays towards the end of that game. He wanted to win. He wanted to win. He has this awesome air about him when games get tight.
He makes such plays.
Yeah.
And it is similar to like what we were complimenting Khaleesi about, even though he kind of faded around the 60th minute before. But all throughout the tournament, it was a tenet of all of his performances that it was around the 60th to 70th minute when he was at his most dangerous, where he was just making play after play, and it was just, and Kieran Reid is the same. But it's not even, it's the 60 minutes to the 80th minute that he just pops up again and again in a ruck, hassling, sacking a maul expertly.
He does it when they need him. That's the great thing about Kieran Reid. Like he can be overshadowed by Fafita when they're playing Argentina, But when it really, really matters, he's the guy you rely on. That's why he's such a great captain.
Yeah.
And like the All Blacks, I can't give them enough credit for going 6 from 6 2 years in a row. Insane.
It's unheard of. It's class.
They are quite possibly the greatest team we have ever seen, and it's why.
And they shouldn't have messed up that Lions tour then, should they?
No, they shouldn't have messed up the Lions tour, but they learned from it.
They did,
and that's why
which is what you have to admire, and it's fair dues to them. And they're going to win Bledisloe again.
They're going to win Bledisloe again. Is that this weekend? I think it's next weekend.
Maybe it's next weekend.
Okay,
but they're going to win it again.
You like Argentina? No, Australia.
Australia. Yeah. But I like Argentina too, and for them because they got ousted by Australia in Argentina, and it's one of those. Hopefully, it is the death rattle for that coaching ticket, and that it's time for.
Well, there was a weird moment before that game where Creevy gave him the stink eye.
The daggers.
Gave the coach the daggers. Stink eye.
The coach just gave him a hug as he was leaving the dressing room, and it was just like a little glance from.
And then Creevy played poorly.
He did for the first like 30 minutes. He was all over the place. He did kind of shape up from then.
I've never seen him play poorly ever.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It seems like a team that's built around emotion as well. You get a sense of that in the craziness of the games. We've often cited that when in our analysis of this Argentina team. It's just that there's a chaotic element to it, and every game takes this mad, helter-skelter, frenetic end-to-end pace and picture that is just odd to look at. But it also never seems to play out to their benefit. They do often go try for with teams, which is what happened here with Australia as well. But they end up losing that contest.
I think during the match you were.
I was worried
that Argentina might win because you were looking at it from an Aussie perspective. And you really wanted Aussie to close it out and finish second.
And I was fearful
and do what you wanted, and you were fearful that they wouldn't do that.
But what I wasn't taking into account, which is you were pointing that out, is just how ridiculous this Argentina team have been, and like not even incapable of closing it out. But they never really. Like sometimes they click and play really well, but it always seems to be just it all falling right for them, or emotionally they're in the right state of mind in that particular play.
They don't shut teams down though. They don't shut down an Aussie attacks. They're just going blow for blow with Australia, who just have more in their gas tank. And Australia, like for me, in that whole game, Australia were always going to find those 2 or 3 tries in the last couple of minutes to put a gloss in the scoreline and put themselves above it, and that's what happened. And Argentina, again, you'd think it's the death knell. I think they look tired of their coaching ticket. Like, I don't even think it's necessarily a flaw in the coaching ticket. I think they just look like they need something new.
They do.
They need a Kiwi voice in the door, as everyone needs.
As with all this stuff, the answer is get a Kiwi in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Get a Kiwi in there, and you'll do great things. Because
it very much reminds me of Ireland at the end of Declan Kidney's tenure. Like Declan Kidney did wonders for them the first year when they won a Grand Slam by getting them all together and talking to them and being very nice.
It just turned out that emotional fixing was what was needed in that instance.
But then
he had nothing to offer from a technical perspective.
Yeah, exactly.
He wasn't a thinker about the game on that level, and it meant that players of the calibre of Brian O'Driscoll were in the ticket feeling that they were the smartest one in the room. And also that's not a good thing either, because there was like behind the scenes footage of Bod just chatting to the coaches as equals, exchanging ideas and saying we should do this, like which granted he's a world class player, but you need your coach with a vision to take some control and have. Like, you can't have dissenting voices in the camp regardless of who they are. So it's like, I think that plays a part too, because I think Creevy feels he's a more intelligent, rounded footballer and more knowledgeable student of the game than the coach.
More than that, it just seems to me like they're tired of a shtick. Like, this dude has the same shtick every time. He's very huggy, he's very physical contact.
Very emotional. I think it's very emotionally driven. I feel like it's a, come on boys, we're at home, let's do this. Which is like, fine, but how?
Yeah, but there was a rugby playing ethos to his tenure. He got them to a World Cup semi-final. They did play awesome rugby, but it just feels like it's the same thing. And now that it's not working, they need to do something new, and they don't seem to quite know what it is. And I think the answer is changing the coaching ticket. And as with all changes in the coaching ticket, I think the deadline is Christmas. So Wales, Australia aren't going anywhere. Wales, South Africa.
Imagine if Australia fired Czech.
No, it's Wales and South Africa primarily. Change your coaches by Christmas, or you're going to 2019 with them. And Argentina would be the addition that you make to that trio. Change your coaches by Christmas, or you have to go to 2019 with them. Anywhere else, it's too short a tenure to get it right for the World Cup. So I think that's the cut-off point. So we'll see what happens going forward with that. I'm not optimistic about Argentina going forward. You don't know, because obviously I've said these things about Italy in the past, and Italy now look like they have brightness. It's very dangerous to read too much into a week or a month or a season.
Indeed.
But going forward, all I'll say is that things need to change in
Things do
Argentina.
need to change. I still think they have talented players who are capable of playing the game, so there should still be cause for optimism. But
they have
I think
a
that's
super
exactly
set of
what's
halfbacks.
required. They do.
If South Africa could steal those halfbacks, they'd be a serious team.
Love and life, Sanchez would be a perfect
and Landajo.
That
scrum half, bit of pace. Love Landajo.
But it took one of those shapes of a game where it was just blow for blow until
the class bore out.
And Argentina just faded away, and that was the end of their season.
Huge credit to Australia, finished second in the tournament. Doesn't matter that much. 2 draws against the Springboks. Those two.
That's an interesting exchange.
Very interesting. Both teams flattered to deceive in both games. But are coming right, and Australia can be brute forced to this World Cup, at least in this.
One thing I will say, in terms
cycle,
of wrapping up their tournament, one of the things that you have to just say hats off to credit to Cheika, is that one of the controllables that he managed so well is that they were so efficient from everything that they could be. Things like lineouts, things like setting up mauls, things like exiting, things like kickoffs. They were all very efficient. Probably, arguably, even the most efficient. Maybe not, because I think the All Blacks, they kind of tailed off at the end of the season. But I know for the first 3-4 games in that in the Rugby Championship, they were impeccable off kickoff. It was strange. They were winning more kickoffs than they were losing. Even though it was odd. But like Argentina or Australia, even everything was technically right in what they were doing, which was untrue of the Springboks for the majority of it. There was
a little thing, rather than Cheika being just this maestro in terms of people, like this is what some people assume in terms of getting guys who are playing terribly to play really well. It might have been this idea that we've been talking about a few times in the podcast this year of galvanising team around ideas and concepts and simple things, and that might have been what it was. Like when he got the squad together for the first time, he was like, all right, whatever happens, because obviously every player must have been feeling
down in the dumps
after what was a horrendous season for Aussie Super Rugby teams. Like Cheika might have just said, all right, we're a team, here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to screw up off kickoffs. We're not going to be technically inefficient at the breakdown. We're going to and just focus them, drilled restarts into them, drilled lineouts into them, drilled all these kind of basic, simple concepts that you can't get wrong into them. And that's why they were technically so efficient in the match. And from that, you have the cement, the template, the groundwork on which to build a team around. And that's a very simple thing that Czech has done really well. It's just focused their minds on the Wallabies, on Australia, on playing well and doing the jersey proud, and doing it by getting them focused on technical things, simple things, what to do, and everyone knows what they're doing off restarts. Everyone wants to do well, knows what they're doing, is in the right place, and that from there that just gives you such confidence. You know what you're doing. You can be much happier as opposed to with this like slap together Waratahs unit. You don't know what you're doing.
And they're a mess of a team. Actually, I really don't like watching them. The Waratahs.
That Kiwi coach who came in this year, just unlike any Kiwi coach I've ever seen, just looks confused, completely out of his depth.
But I think we'll wrap it up. I think we'll wrap it up.
2 hours.
Coming up on the 2 hour mark. That's probably one of the longer ones we've ever done. But it was probably due for it because we left you hanging there.
We got a lot in there. We get a lot. Who stuck it out for the whole one? Q&As.
Q&As. That's if you do nothing else, type a question below.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't actually. It's partly an experiment to see if anyone is watching the full way through. If we're going to get any questions.
But we did it at top and the end, so there's no way of knowing that. We have no control over whether they could have just watched the first 5 minutes and then typed a question. You don't know.
No, of course. I just want to see who's watching and that's whatever. But we will answer any questions. Yeah. We'll have a fun segment on that. And I think it's time to wrap this up.
Yeah.
Absolutely. A lot of fun talking away again.
Chatting away about rugby. And roll on this weekend. We have starting with the Premier Championship or tournament even in European in rugby.
Yeah, so possibly one of the premier club championships in the world. Might have overtaken Super Rugby.
Off the back of this season, it probably looks like a better tournament than Super Rugby. In fact,
I would go so far as to say it will be a better tournament than Super Rugby, because Super Rugby was a hot mess this year.
It was
not necessarily the best teams, although I really if only logistics weren't a problem, because I would love to see that Kiwi conference play a few teams. Like I'd love to see that Saracens Crusaders match or that Saracens Chiefs match. It just have such an interesting aesthetic to it.
I know,
and we'd learn so much.
But it is interesting to note, looking at the Rugby Championship table there, which finishes up that yes, it's 28 points to New Zealand, 15 points to Australia, who floundered and suffered in Super Rugby all year, 14 points to South Africa, who cruised their way to a final in Super Rugby without ever being challenged or tested, without ever having Yankees have his feet held to the fire, and having him play terribly in every single knockout game in the Super Rugby, and being bailed out by those around him in that Lions team who weren't in the Springbok team in the end, and then the Springbok team ended up finishing third, not second.
I think it's a distinction without difference, to be honest. Both sides, and to use the American framework of scoring, which I quite like, 2-2-2. Yeah. 2 wins, 2 losses, 2 draws. They drew twice. I don't think the Aussies can legitimately say they're a better team than the Box. They drew home and away. Yeah. It's a tie.
It's a tie for second. It's a tie, but considering going into this tournament, and also just the well that South Africa have to work with versus the well that Australia have to work with currently, it's an impressive and unprecedented result for Australia. Speaks credit to the coach. So huge credit to Curtly Beale, and a few others in that.
Curtly Beale is certainly on that short list for Player of the Tournament.
He absolutely is, and Player of the Year.
Oh, I could have done a team of the tournament. I could rattle one off now. The All Blacks. No.
The All Blacks are the team of the tournament.
I don't really like those templates anyway. Khaleesi would be in there. Curtly Beale will be in there.
You may as well do player ratings if you want to get lazy about our journalism.
But player ratings are an abomination. Don't read player ratings. I think they might just be an Irish phenomenon, are they? Or do they?
No, I think they appear in pretty much every. They're just column inches for newspapers, but it's absolute shite. And it appears on loads of things afterwards, and it's just
6 out of 10 for blah 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 blah.
The flanker on the losing team, whereas 7 out of 10 for the flanker on the winning team. And man of the match out half. Load of shite. Anyway, we've just tipped over that 2 hours, which was more about principle than anything else. That's why I wanted to do it. But
we were just riffing for an extra 20 minutes.
Exactly. But we're going to stop that right now, concisely end it, and say we'll see you hopefully next week, but we won't be as stern in our assurances because logistics do get in the way, as Super Rugby knows.
Yes, It's just a matter of life, being busy. Here we are shooting at coming up on 1 o'clock in the morning.
It is actually just past 1 o'clock in the morning. Now it's Friday. I'm in work in under 11 hours. Yeah, let's wrap up. All right, we'll see you soon, guys. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
You gonna throw your rugby ball?
Oh yeah, well it goes to you.
Okay.
It's your turn to throw the rugby ball. Tougher than it looks. Tougher than it looks.
I think that's a pretty ideal shot.
What? You want to hit the lens?
You don't want to hit the lens. You want to look like hitting the lens.
No.
But not hit the lens.
No, you want to hit the lens. The lens is
exactly what I did.
The lens is your target.
That's just hitting the camera with the ball.
It's hitting the lens of the camera with the ball.
Right. Distinction with very little difference.
No, it's not. It matters.
Bye-bye.